Ah, success. Is this working? I have no idea. If anyone's joined, I apologize for the delay. I had some technical issues with OBS and YouTube being nice to each other, which is interesting. And I have no idea if this is actually working. It seems to be on YouTube side, but I could be wrong. So without further ado, we'll crack on. Maybe somebody, if somebody is there, can let me know if indeed this is actually working in the chat. Let me just put a little message in the chat there. Let's just see if anyone's there joining us today. It's my very first stream. If you're here, you're going to be joining soon. Welcome. And in fact, I'm just going to check on my mobile as well to see if this is actually live. It seems to be. Wow, isn't technology wonderful? Apparently, I've got one waiting in the upcoming stream, which didn't work. So I created a new one in OBS, and that seemed to have worked. And obviously, that person is not aware that I'm now on a different stream. How embarrassing, eh? Oh my goodness me. Hopefully, those of you who are on my channel can go to the live tab and see if anybody, you can see the live feed there. So hopefully you do that with any luck. But anyway, I'm going to crack on. I think I'll do that. And before I do that, let's just cover a few basics. First of all, my name's Theo. I look after Beyond Blender. That's my channel, essentially, where I share lots of, obviously, Blender videos. Hopefully you enjoy those. And yeah, as you can see behind me there, you've got Blender version 4.4.3, which I believe is the latest. I could be wrong on that one, but the latest one since I last checked a few days ago. Anyway, and the goal of today is to make a helmet. And if I just bring that up in my other window here, and if I can find it, right, let me just play this video and drag it over. So this is the helmet that I posted yesterday as a short, just to give you a sneak preview really of this essentially, and also the videos coming out showing you how to make this helmet, which is quite an interesting little journey for me and challenge. So yeah, that's what we're going to try to do today, and I'll show you, hopefully show you in the best way possible how I did that, and I'll show you as well that the initial file or the test files that I've been using to create the helmet. And this is what I normally do. If you're not familiar with, well, I guess you're not going to be really, but everyone's got their different ways of doing things, right? And for me, I tend to test a lot of stuff before I make the videos that you see on my channel. So, I mean, in worst case scenarios, I could make a file, a model or something like 4 or 5 times before I feel comfortable enough to record it again, going through that whole process from start to begin, from beginning to end. So a lot of work and time and energy goes into making the videos. So I hope that comes through in the quality of the videos. I don't know if they're any good or not, but I enjoy them. Hopefully you guys do too. So essentially this file that you see here is the file that I've been working on. And if I zoom out, you can see over here, we have a whole army of helmets. So these are all my initial progression through each key stage of making the helmet. And some of them are easier to show you than others because at some point I started to use a lattice and a shrink wrap modifier. So by duplicating it and moving it to the side, it all breaks, of course, because the lattice will stay over here and then everything else will be in the wrong position. So that's why I made a copy of it at this stage here, so I can actually show you that's what it would look like at that point, right, with a lattice and I believe a shrink wrap modifier, if I make that a little bit bigger. So you can see there we have, well, just the lattice actually. I think the shrink wrap modifier came later on. You can see there it is there. So that's what that's doing there. But anyway, like I say, these are the things that I went through to get to where I am with this particular file. And I'm actually quite pleased with it as it is. I wouldn't say it's perfect in any way, but you know, what is perfect? And yeah, so I shall work through that and show you how I started. I start to make this essentially from scratch. Right, there's a few things I need to tell you before that, and I got inspiration from this for making this helmet from another YouTuber that I saw. I believe his name is I could get this wrong. Polygon Pen. I'm not sure. My apologies if I've got that wrong. But I really like his videos. Now the difference between his channel and my channel is he uses Cinema 4D and I use, of course, Blender. So, but I still like to watch his videos to see how he builds things and models things, and that knowledge and information translates to other 3D software, not just Cinema 4D, because it's more about the principles of modeling and the techniques. Oops, sorry if I hit the microphone there. Of this kind of stuff. So when I saw that, I thought, well, that's quite a cool exercise to do, modeling wise. So I immediately got onto the internet, as you do. Oh, someone joined. I'm not sure. No, there isn't anybody yet, sadly. I don't think anyone is aware this is actually live. Goodness me. Right. But anyway, having said that, I opened up my browser. I just open up a little browser window here and bring it over to the screen here. I ended up, look at that. You see what I'm looking for there? bellhelmets.com. So this is where I ended up when I did some research on helmets, and I ended up getting to this particular maker, I guess, of these helmets when I typed in looking for retro style helmets, because I kind of like that look and feel aesthetically. So I wanted to do something that's quite retro but obviously modern at the same time, and I stumbled across these guys. They're called Bell, as you can see there, and they make all sorts of helmets. And of course the one I selected is this one over here, Shop Retro. Strangely enough, there you go, Shop Retro. And here you've got some really nice retro style helmets like this one over here, the Custom 500. And I should also mention this video is not sponsored by anybody, and I'm certainly not promoting Bell itself. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, shape or form. I just liked what I saw on the website and thought I tried to make something. It basically inspired me, right, to do something like this. Yeah, so I picked one of these, and it was the Bullet GT, that one there. So I click on that. You can see it comes in different colors and all sorts. In fact, there's another one. You got the red decoration there. There's one here somewhere with that red one, which I really like. And I thought it was that one, but maybe it isn't. So let's have a look at Adventure, SEO Advisors. Why is it not coming up there? I don't know. Let's go back to that and do retro again. Maybe it's that one, or I thought it was that one. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, it was further down here. So yeah, the bullet there is really nice. It's pretty much a derivative of that one there. And it might be down here as well. So you click on more results, and there it is there. So that's the one that I really like the look of. And also it helps to see it in white or light color, so that I can actually see the shape better as well. So that really caught my eye, and I really like this red and white color scheme going on. So it's pretty cool. Anyway, I'll leave that there. That's essentially what I kind of inspired me to make the helmet. So I loosely based the one I've made on this one. So with that, I was able to right click and download these images and save them to my hard drive. So I grabbed all of these from all the angles, so I've got them there as reference. And of course, we load that into Blender and use it as a tracer, something we can trace around and use as reference, really, as a guide. So I'm going to close that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this version of Blender, the Blender file open. And I'll do my best to try and take you through the steps of how I got to this part here. So if I hit that into, put that into rendered mode, you can see that's the video that I showed you earlier. Just turn off the overlays and you can see there, looking pretty cool, I think. I hope you'll agree. And there's our visor, because you can't see it if I select stuff, but if I press G to grab it and move it. There's our visor. There's all our little bits and pieces. If I select, for example, this part here, press G to move it. Got the screw head as well, just there. Then we've got these little grills. I'll move it that way. You've got these little grills in front of the, I guess these are like holes that give air, provide air into the helmet. I forget the word, what that is. And then you have that little bit there as well. Really simple shapes. Yeah, but anyway, let's put that back to solid mode and I'll reload this file so I don't mess it up. Let's revert back to the saved file. Like I said, I'm going to keep this open. And, oh, hello. Someone's joined. Thank you so much for joining. Hello back. How are you doing today? Right, if you missed it, I didn't notice if you just joined. I do apologize. I've got the chat on one window and Blender on this window over here. But essentially, what I'm going to be showing you today is how to make this model, the helmet model in Blender. So I'll crack on with that now. Get some water. My throat does get quite dry talking all the time, as you can imagine. Right, let's launch another copy of instance of Blender. And there we go. So first of all, I'm going to do, let's just save that first, actually. Just bear with me a second. Let's just save the file. I'm going to save it in the same folder, I guess, as the other one. So I'll call that live helmet -01. What a lovely name. Superb. Let's bring that back. There you go. I've saved it up there. Live helmet 01.blend. And we've got nothing in our scene other than a cube. It's actually a cube. I just stuck applied a subdivision modifier to it. So it looks like that now. So yeah, it's a quad sphere essentially. But we're going to delete that. We don't need that. We don't really need the camera, so let's get rid of that as well. So all we've got now is an empty collection. Hey, nice to hear you're good, thanks. Good, thanks. Hey, good to hear that you're good. Thanks for joining, by the way, really appreciate it. And if anybody is watching, I'm looking at you, I guess, for now. Appreciate a thumbs up on the, a like on the video. That'd be fantastic. Thank you so much. Right, let me crack on. So first of all, just going to prepare my Blender workspace. I'm going to join this window down, so we don't need the timeline for this. We're not doing any animation today. I'm going to minimize my my add-on. By the way, I may be using that sometimes. This is my add-on. If you've not seen it before, you probably noticed it in my other videos that I on the channel. It's called BB Toolkit. This is the pro version, of course. There is a free version if you're interested. Check it out. There are some videos on my channel showing you what this can do and why it can be useful. I like to use it. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I quite like it because it gives me one-click access to common tools and modifiers and whatnot. So yeah, I'll be using that anyway. And I'll explain the key presses as I go along as well, hopefully. In fact, I can turn on the screencast keys, can't I? That might be a good idea, Theo. Fantastic. There we go. Right, so with that done, let's going to save my file again. And we're going to drag in, you can load it any way you like, but I'm going to drag in the reference material. So if I just show you what I've downloaded there, you can see we've got a whole bunch of, if I can bring it over here, we've got a whole bunch of images that I saved off the website there, including this hinge part of the helmet. You can see it's got a screw in the middle. Fairly simplistic geometry. The materials really make this come to life, I think. In fact, all of it really, pretty much. I even downloaded the video just to watch it offline from the one that the other guy made in Cinema 4D. Now this one's a very different helmet, but it's obviously got the same kind of basic foundation to work from. But as I say, that's in Cinema 4D, and I'm trying to do the best I can in Blender to make something very similar to that. or like it anyway. So anyway, I'm going to load in one of these reference images. I'm going to take this one here, the side view. In fact, this one is the one I used. So there's two ways you can do this. I knew I'd say that. If I go back to Blender for a moment and do Shift A, you can go to Image and hit Reference. And that will obviously, you can load your image that way, and that's fine. What I'm going to do is actually just go select it from here and just drag it into Blender, and there it is. Now, obviously, it's dragged it and dropped it over here, and it's not at the world center. So we need to put that back at 0 and rotate it, you know, get rid of all the rotation on it, basically. You can do that really quickly. Again, there's more ways to do this than one way. Mouse over these areas here and just press the backspace key. So with my mouse over here, I can press backspace, and that resets the location. Likewise with the rotation. But I do want that to be rotated 90 degrees on the X. So I will do that, and there we go. And now we have, if I press 1 on the numpad and go to the front view, yeah, we're in the front orthographic view. There you can see we're looking at that. But that's not the front, that's the side, isn't it? So I'm going to rotate it as well 90 degrees on the Z there, or the Z axis, the Z axis. So I'm going to just press 90 there. So if I go to the front view now, you won't see it anymore because it's paper thin, of course. But if I press 3 for the side view, that's the right orthographic view. You can see that's the helmet we've got there. Now, at this point, I'm not going to worry about the scale of the helmet. I'm just going to model it as is. And this is actually probably quite large because I know that because if I add a cube, it's going to use my add-on for that. And if you don't have the add-on, just click Shift A, Mesh, and Cube. And there's a cube, and we all know, hopefully, that the default cube in Blender is 2 meters by 2 meters. You can see that under the item menu, you can see there the scale of the cube. As I say, that's 2 meters by 2 meters by default. So maybe I should make that a little bit smaller. So with that selected, the reference image selected, let's press S for scale and just bring it down a little bit. Let's get rid of our cube, just delete that. And make that, I'm not going to make it too small because it's actually easier to model something when it's larger than it is smaller. So you can always scale it down after the fact, right? So I'm just going to go with that. Now, if we head over to our properties panel and just check in the chat if anyone's joined. I feel like such an idiot because the other stream didn't work. And I don't know why, but the new one I made worked instantly. So thank you, OBS and YouTube, for throwing me under the bus there. But hey, we live and learn, I guess. I'll try and figure out what the problem was and do this properly next time. But anyway, let's select that. And what I'm going to do in the properties panel here, we've got the reference image properties, of course. The first thing I want to do is click on opacity, enable that. And now we can turn down the opacity because it's too bright and I won't be able to see what I'm doing essentially. So we can bring that down to something like that. And there it is, right? I'm also going to push it back. Just click it. If you're on the move tool there, just click on the X axis icon or the arrow essentially. Just push it back over there so it doesn't interfere with our 3D model, which is going to be in this area. So you can still see it there in the background a little bit. Now, I think I also loaded the, if I go to the front view, I also loaded the front view of the helmet. But the problem with this one is, if I just double click it, this is taken obviously with some sort of camera with a particular type of lens and a focal length. I don't know if this is a good representation. It's probably got camera distortion, which in fact it has probably. So it may not be the best guide in that sense, but it's good enough to give you a ballpark, right? So I'm just going to drag that into our Blender viewport window again. And I'm just going to zero out the location by pressing backspace with my mouse pointer over this area. And that's rotated 90 degrees already by default. You can see it there, in fact in the front view there. But it's a very different size to this one. So perhaps if we put this back to, zero that out, back to 1, now we have both of these. And I can't even see the other one for some bizarre reason. Let's just select that. You can see there, the reason it's not showing up is because it's only visible in orthographic modes. So if we tick on perspective as well, we can now see it in perspective and orthographic. So this time I'm going to push it back over here. And I'm going to put this one a little bit further over there because we scaled it up back to the default one again. I'll leave it at that for now. I mean, sorry, I do waffle sometimes. So like with the other one, I'm just going to select the opacity and bring that down a little bit, maybe 0.1, something like that. Right, with that done, let's rename that collection up there and call it reference. Now we've got a reference just for the reference images, of course. Ta-da! Genius. Let's create a new collection. So I'm going to right click in this window here and create a new one. Let's call that helmet. And what I'm also going to do is turn on this little arrow, which is selectability, or selectable or not. And then just turn this off. So just, in fact, just do it on the whole collection. That way we can't select these by accident and scale them or rotate them. All that good stuff, right? Right, let's go to the front view. In fact, that sucks. Let's go to the side view. Now, there's one other thing that I noticed whilst watching the other creator's video is in Cinema 4D, just like Maya and perhaps other 3D software, apart from Blender, you do have a sort of history on your primitives. So what do I mean by that? Well, just show you a quick example because it really makes a difference to this particular model actually. It doesn't have to, but it helps. Anyway, let me demonstrate what I mean. If I add a cube, let me go to the properties of that cube here. There's no way for me to actually change, maybe that's not the best example. Let's get rid of the cube and let's make a cylinder, right? So the cylinder by default has 32 verts and radius 1, depth 2. Now, if I change this here to say 24, and then I click away, in fact, even if I don't click away, when I look at the cylinder properties, I can't change the number of vertices that makes up that cylinder. I can't go back to it in 5 minutes time, change it to 32 or 16 or anything else. It's fixed. Essentially, it's like that's the way it's going to be moving forward in Blender. But in Cinema 4D and Maya specifically as well, you have a history on the object. So you can go back to the very point where you created it in the stack and say, hey, I didn't want 32 verts or 24. I actually wanted 48 or 16. You can change that and it will update, in the scene, which is pretty cool. I must admit, I do miss that a little bit from Maya, back from my Maya days, many eons ago. So what I did was, I should also say, I did try to do this. You can do it without using any add-ons. It's just a little bit trickier and it's more work. And I've got no problem using an add-on if it's free, right? But I don't want to be using, you may have noticed in my videos, yeah, I do use my, oh yeah, A in chat says, yeah, it's definitely annoying in Blender how you can't change it. Yeah, I'm glad you agree. I think that's something that I would love to see the Blender organization hopefully work on in the future as a new feature to Blender, or a new thing that they introduced to Blender anyway at some point. That'd be great. I'm wondering, Nate, have you got anything else that you think in Blender is missing that should be added to Blender perhaps? Interesting to see what you guys think out there. I've certainly got a few things I can't remember right now, but I'll think, why can't you just do that? Surely it can't be that much work. So anyway, I'll get back to what I'm saying. So in my videos, I don't like to use paid add-ons because I don't want to put the onus on, a student or a beginner having to spend money to follow along one of my videos. I just make something vanilla Blender. The most I will use is something like Blender Kit if I'm looking for something quick, like a material that I don't want to create myself. And that's pretty much it, really. I will use my own add-on, of course, because why not? It's a little bit of self-promotion, I guess. So yeah, I will use that as that's pretty much it, really. And you don't really need this, but it's a nice to have, right? Because it makes things a little bit quicker to do in Blender. So for me, that's what this does, and it really helps me. And I use it all the time, to be fair. I'm not just saying that, I genuinely use it all the time. So anyway, so what I did was, I remembered something that I'd seen a few months ago. If I open another window and go to the Blender website, the official extensions website, I just search for it because I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, extensions.blender.org. Let me bring that into view. There we go. Excuse me, maybe some water again. Yeah, so Blender extensions platform. If you've not seen this before, this is the official website that Blender recently launched, I guess, in the last year, where you can find all sorts of extensions, themes, and add-ons, and all sorts for Blender, of course. Now, the one that I remembered seeing months ago was one called not that one there. I don't think it was that. That's something different. It was an add-on which is free, so it doesn't cost anything, where you can add a primitive and you can adjust the primitive's parameters after the fact, right? Which is great, which is exactly what I wanted in this particular use case of making this model of the helmet, because it really helped me get through a lot of faffing around in Blender. So if I go to add-ons, I just search for primitive or primitives, whichever one you like. And this is the one that I used to help me with the helmet. So if I click on that, I'll just briefly and very quickly show you what this add-on does. Again, I'm not affiliated with it. There's no money involved here or sponsorships. It's something that I simply used to help me get the job done, right? And it's free, so there's no harm in using it. The only thing you need to be aware of course, is here it says Blender 4.3 and above for compatibility reasons. So just make sure you're using Blender 4.3 and above. So in a nutshell, what this does is it enables you to add primitives that you have control over, maybe the segments or the radius or the size, everything essentially after the fact. You don't have to bake it in once you've made it. It's not baked in. So I thought that would be a great way of me using this to create the, because the first thing you need to create for the helmet is a sphere or a cube, right? It's a quad sphere. So once you've done that, this enables you to go between the high version, which is what I use for shrink wrap purposes. It'll become clear later, I promise you. And the low res version, which we can use just to model with, right? Keep it simple, keep it stupid, as they say, or KISS, that's for short. So we've got a high res version we're going to use as a shrink wrap target, and we've got a low res version. And the reason I've used this add-on is because if I create the quad sphere with this and then make that really high res, I can then simply duplicate it and reduce the poly count, and it will maintain the same volume and modifiers and everything. And that's the way it worked the best for me. So that's what I used, and I will shut up, I promise you. I know I talk too much, but bear with me. Right, so how do we install this? Well, there's two ways you can do it. You can manually download it. So if we click this button that says Get Add-on, you've got a download link, which will take you through to, I guess, just the, well, if I click that, it's downloaded it straight away. There you go, right? So you can install I can't talk. You can install the add-on in the normal way that you would do. So edit, in Blender, edit, preferences, add-ons, click on this little drop-down menu in the top right, install from disk, find the location of the zip file you downloaded and install it there, and make sure it's ticked. So that means it's enabled, basically, right? And there you go, you're done. And I think I have it on. So if I go to modern, yeah, you can see there, modern primitive is the one that I've just shown you. The other way to install it is a really cool way, actually. I didn't know you could do this until, well, obviously I saw this in action, is you can drag and drop this box here into Blender. So if I minimize that window, move it to the side, I could just drag and drop that into Blender and let go. I won't do that because I've already got it installed, but it will do that, and it will prompt you to say, hey, do you want to install this add-on? You click yes, and Bob's your uncle. The add-on is installed. Brilliant. So yeah, recommend that. Check it out. Modern Primitive on the extensions platform, Blender. Download it. Right, let's crack on. Let's do some stuff. So I'm going to switch back to my other file, Blender file. Go back to the very beginning. Let's see what I did. If I remember, he says. So we've got this one over here. And how did I get to this? Right, it's a very basic, you can see it's a very basic quad sphere. It's only half of it, and I've used a mirror modifier here, you can see there. And I've also got a subdivision modifier, which is disabled at the moment. So if I enable that, you got this nice smooth shape to work from. So turn that off. If your background is more 3ds Max, it's Turbo Smooth or Smooth, something like that. I forget what it was called. I did use Max for a few years as well. I was okay with it. I liked it. It was fine. But yeah, times have moved on. So yeah, that's what that is. Obviously the mirror modifier. So what I did was, let's go back to our other file. Go to the side view. So there we are. We can see our reference image. And let's make sure we select our helmet collection so that everything we do from now on actually sits within the helmet collection. And what I did was I went over to Modern Primitive. I think it's that one there, isn't it? No, that's something else. Sorry. There we go. Modern Primitive. In fact, I can just click on Create there. So in the side menu here, which is N, if you press N to toggle that, you got the MPR, that's the Modern Primitive add-on. You can click on these different options here. And it's really cool. If I give it a quick demo, if I click on, for example, Spring, and it adds a spring, you get the context window in the bottom left of Blender, of course, like you do with everything or most things in Blender. So you can change them all here, but you can't really change a lot here actually, because everything is actually in the 3D viewport. And I'll show you what I mean. So for example, if we click on this red one here and we drag it out, that's the thickness of our spring. That's interactive. If we click on the yellow one here, that's the scale of the spring at the bottom end of it. If you click on the blue one, that would be the scale at the top. So you can make that any shape you like, right? If we click on the one on the top, that's the height of the spring. If I just zoom out and bring that up, we now have a taller spring. And there's also another one. If we click on, if I can find it, if you click on this blue, these circles, you can see there we've got a green circle down here. We've got a yellow circle and we've got a blue circle. So if I click on this circle here and drag, you can see we can increase the turns or the amount of screws essentially of that spring, which is really nice. So you can do that manually. You can also, I believe, type it in, but I can't remember how to do that. You can see I clicked off there. And if you did that with the normal default primitive in Blender, you've lost, anything you can control when you created it, right? It's gone forever. You can't go back and change it. But with this one, Modern Primitive, simply select it and continue changing it. So maybe I wanted less, turns on the spring. And this one down here, let's make that a bit thicker. Oops, at the base. Make it thicker give it some more body volume, I guess. And this circle here changes the number of, you can see there, segments across the length of those turns. Likewise, if I click it and drag it the other way, oops, this way, anti-clockwise, I reduce the amount of segments on that primitive. And this one over here, lastly, the green one, if I click and drag that clockwise, I increase the segments, going around the rings of the body. If I do it the other way, anti-clockwise, it reduces the amount. So you can get down to 3. Obviously, you can't go less than 3. So that's what Modern Primitive does for you. You've got things like springs, you've got things like gears, a torus. Again, you can do the same stuff here, changing the sizes and the volume and the rings. You can increase the count or decrease it and the volume as well, and around it as well. So you can do all these fun things after the fact. You don't have to do it again, right? If you decide to change your mind later on. Yeah, check out the add-on. I think it's really cool. I mean, I used it for this and it worked really well. So what I'm going to do is I started with a quad sphere. So if I select that, we get a quad sphere, of course. And if you didn't want to use an add-on like this, or you can't get hold of it for whatever reason, if you were to add a cube, a basic cube, move it over here, just next to it, and we press maybe Control 2, that will add 2 levels of subdivision through a modifier, subdivision modifier. You can see there I've got 2 levels. So that's essentially the same as that now. Different size, but it's the same thing. If I scale that up, you can see it's exactly the same. So the difference is that I can't do anything with this one once I've made it, right? I can't increase its details or whatever. But this one, I can change it, its size. It's a basic cube, don't worry about it. But anyway, you get the idea. And this one here, the angled one, you can change the number of subdivisions as well, which is really nice. Get some feedback there in the viewport. That's a great way of doing it. Really like that. But we're going to start off with that for now. And what I then did was scale that up. Now, if I get this completely wrong, I do apologize. I'm trying to remember how I did this. I remember, as I know, you scale this up. Let's turn in our rendering modes in the top right of the viewport. I'm going to switch over to wireframe so you can see what we're doing. There's our quad sphere, and I'm going to scale that up so it's a little bit larger than our helmet. Something like that is probably good enough. And we probably want to scale this as well. So if I click on the scale widget there, maybe scale that up. You don't have to do this, I think, the scale. I can't remember if I did that or not, but let's do that anyway, just for now. I'm trying to think if I actually did that. Perhaps I didn't. I'm not going to scale it. Let's just leave it like that for now, see how we go. So once you've got that, we're going to add a lattice to deform it and make it fit the helmet in a much nicer way, right? So, but for the sake of demonstrating this is going to be a high resolution object that we're then going to use later on a low version, a low poly version, to shrink wrap onto this one, right? It'll make sense later on once you see it. So let me just turn on the subdivisions on this modern primitive cube. If I increase that, something like that, we get a much smoother result, of course, right? Head over to solid mode. Let's right click and do shade smooth as well. So it looks nice and, actually you can't do it there, my apologies. You've got to do it in the object properties here. Just select smooth and it's done. I don't know why that is, it's just the way it is. So select that, we've got that there. So back to wireframe mode. With that done, there's our quad sphere. Let's call that high, just for now. But let's put an underscore on that. So we've got quad high. And if we head over to, let's add a lattice first of all. So I've not actually added that into my add-on because I don't really use lattices that often. So I've got all the basic stuff there. So to add a lattice, I'm just going to do Shift A and select lattice. And there it is there in the middle of our quad sphere. So what we need to do now is scale that up. So, oops, side view, 3 on the numpad. I'll stop pressing buttons, that is. Let's scale that up and make it a little bit larger than our quad sphere. As you can see there, it's a little bit bigger. Nice and snug from both angles. Front and side. It's the same, right? So it's just a cube. Now if we go to our lattice properties here, we're going to increase the number of cuts along that lattice. So for example, just switch back to perspective mode actually. If I increase this to 3 on the V and 3 on the W, we now have that. So we get a much nicer, we get more control points. Let's do 3 as well on the U. So essentially we've got a cube now. I'll just hide the sphere. We have a cube that's been divided into 3, or 2 in this case. And the reason for that is because if you tab into a lattice object, you have these points. And if you move that point by pressing G, select one and press G and move it, you can obviously move those points, right? But nothing happens because we haven't used, the lattice is not connected to any particular object at the moment. So what I'm going to do is select the high poly quad sphere, head over to my modifiers, And let's just collapse this modern primitive for a moment. Let's add another modifier and go to deform lattice. Or lattice, no, it's not lattice, what am I saying? Lattice. So now we want to select, well, which lattice are you wanting to use? So let's click on that and select this lattice. So that appears there. You can also use a vertex group if that's what you want, and as a strength value as well. But that's not what I didn't need those. Didn't use those. So anyway, if we go back to our lattice now, tab into edit mode. So press the tab key. We select these points here, for example, and let's just make our move tool visible. If I click and drag these, you can see our sphere is deforming according to the points of that lattice, right? That's all it is. It's a model, a vehicle for modifying your other objects essentially and distorting them, which is really cool. So that's a great way of this modeling itself. Actually, you don't have to model manually. You can maybe use a lattice to model something. I'm going to switch to the side view and go back to wireframe. Now I want to use the lattice to make sure you are in wireframe, by the way, because if you select points, maybe you're in solid mode, you may not select all of the points. You might only select the first one or the middle one and not all of them. We want to make sure that you select all 3 points. So go into wireframe mode. And now we can start manipulating the quad sphere through these points or the lattice. So I'm just going to move these around and get as close a shape as I can to match the helmet, right? So it's a bit of pulling around. It's a bit fiddly, but you'll get there. No worries, just make sure it's roughly in the position. Let's select these ones over here, bring it into place, and these need to go perhaps a little bit higher, or left, I should say, like that. That's pretty good. Let's do the same for these ones. And then we can do these ones up here, maybe up here a little bit, and then up. You get this kind of V shape at the top there, which I find a bit weird, because you would think the model would dip down, but it doesn't. Got a question. Hi, Destro. Thanks for joining. Really appreciate the support, guys. And please do hit the like button. It really helps me. My very first stream, so yay. Fantastic. Destro asks, I always wondered what the white circle did. Thanks. The white circle, is that the one up here? Do you mean, Destro? And also A asks, just wondering, why do you start with the cube rather than the sphere? That's an excellent question, A. I'll show you why. If I just come out of editing that lattice. So 2 very good reasons is, firstly, and always actually, topology, right? It's always got to be at the forefront of your project, whatever you're modeling. Always have in mind that your topology is your friend. And if you have bad topology, it will kick you in the butt later on. Believe me. It may not, but it's very unlikely that it wouldn't. And that might happen because you may want to add like some add-ons, like not add-ons, some modifiers like subdivision service or bevel. Those 2 in particular will really mess up bad topology, and you get a bad result. So that's the main reason. Another reason is essentially because we want to try, we could have a discussion about this all day, but you want to try and model in quads as much as possible, because that plays very well with modifiers and all the features of modeling within Blender on most 3D packages, not just Blender, Cinema 4D, Maya. So A, to answer your question, it's all about topology and avoiding shading glitches, issues down the line. And if I show you a sphere, what that looks like in comparison to a quad sphere, like this one is, if I just turn on wireframe, you can see that's why I use my add-on, because it's got things like wireframe and face orientation in a single click, and adding things like lights and 3 light setup. You can do radial arrays, linear arrays, that kind of stuff. So if I add a normal mesh UV sphere and I move that over just to the right here, let's scale it up a little bit, turn on the wireframe, you can see that we have these poles at the very top and bottom. Oh yeah, yeah, you see, thanks. You're welcome, buddy. So yeah, you get these poles at the top and bottom. So these are really nasty for like getting good topology out of it. 'Cause these are all triangles. These are all quads. And then the poles at the top and bottom are triangles essentially. So watch what happens if we add a sub-D modifier to that. Let's use my add-on for that quickly. Let's shade smooth, right click, shade smooth. Now at some point, you can barely see it there. I don't know if it will come across in the video. I hope it does. You can see this pinching or like a crinkly effect. And if I go to a matte cap, this is really good. A good tip for you guys, for anybody modeling really. Use a matte cap to like review your model as you make it, because that will really highlight some of the issues you might see or you might miss if you don't, look at them in the right light. So you can see there's straight away, you've got this kind of fan-like pinching at the top, but not on the sides, of course, because that's all quad based. When you go to the opposite side, again, you got the pinch in there. You can see it's a really weird effect. That's why we don't want essentially use a sphere. It doesn't work really well. It doesn't play well with modifiers and stuff. And it's a problem to model with because you can't really mess around with triangles. They're much harder to kind of put edge loops into or loop cuts, that kind of stuff. So it's really quite painful sometimes. But if you do that with a quad sphere, you can see the highlights and the shading is perfectly smooth, no matter where you're looking at it. And if I turn on the wireframe, essentially there's a pole there, but it's not triangulated, it's actually quads. So if I just move the highlight over there, there's no distortion, there's no crinkly effect. So it's a really cool way. Anyway, I'll shut up. I think I've made my point. Oh God. Back to the side view. Let's turn back to studio lighting and wireframe again. And let's continue modifying the shape. Selecting these points and moving them around. Let's select these guys and just move them down like that. Maybe select these ones and just shift them out. Something like that. Now you can see we've got a really nice curve that fits the helmet there. And finally, this one over here kind of goes, I guess, like that. I'm not really sure. This may not be the best arrangement, to be honest, because we want this to be a straight line later on. And we may have to tweak this further after the fact, right? We'll see how we go. But I think it's meant to be somewhere down here, and then you can move it down this way, like that. And then maybe move these ones out, like so. So yeah, that might be a better way of actually doing it. So let's move these. The reason I'm doing that is I want to keep these guys fairly close together in the height, up and down distance. Like I say, it might make it easier to model. So yeah, we'll get to that and see how that works. Let's just make sure that's roughly there. And these ones at the top, down a touch. That will do. You get the idea anyway. I'll leave it there. The side view is pretty good as it is. Let's go to the front view, one on the numpad. You can see there it's way too wide. Let's just select all of these and press S for scale. And then we want to restrict the scaling to the x-axis. So press X and scale that in like that. Now I should say you want to ignore all of this stuff here. That's part of the visor. And this bit is a bulgy thing that comes out where your ear would be essentially, right? So ignore that bit there. Just try and think about the overall shape of the helmet. Let's grab all these guys down here. S for scale, X for the x-axis. Just bring that in like so. And having done that, we can now see that this is way too thin now. So we can scale these out a little bit. This is where it gets tricky basically, right? Yeah, it's not going to be great, but we'll get there. We'll figure it out. Let's do these guys at the top. Something like that. And then bring these up so it matches the top of that helmet there. That's good enough. Let's go with that. This bit's a bit off, but yeah, maybe we can just maybe do it a little bit more like that. And then bring these out. Scaling on the x-axis again. Like so. Maybe bring these down a touch more. That's better actually. Something like that. Let's leave it there. It's not really, I'm not going to do everything perfectly yet, but that's the principle behind what we're doing at this stage, right? That's the stage one. So just to recap quickly, we've got a quad sphere, which I created with the modern primitive add-on. Free add-on, grab it. It's a great use case for this one. So then I added a lattice, and on the lattice, I've got a resolution of 3, 3, and 3. And I then attached the lattice to the sphere, the quad sphere, using a lattice modifier. Okay, so hopefully that's pretty straightforward. Sorry, hi Seth, thanks for joining, and hello to ME. Good to see you, hope you're doing well. It's been a while. Seth, good question. Will you be streaming texturing as well? I think so, yeah. I don't see why not. The texturing is actually pretty easy. I hope. We'll see about that. But from what I've got so far from the video that you saw earlier, for those of you who just joined, I'll just show you what Seth is, if you're not aware, what Seth is alluding to. And that would be the, there's all my stuff here that I've provided for my YouTube channel and stuff. There's the video that I recorded. If I just play that, and of course it plays in the wrong software. Brilliant. There it is. So this is the helmet this is where I'm at essentially with my test model. So I was going to do that with a texture map, like just a PNG file or something, but in the end I got it to work with a few nodes in Blender, just using a radial gradient. So that was fairly easy to set up. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky to figure out, which axis you want the radial or gradient to go on, and if you have to tweak something in the settings in the nodes. But generally, once you figure it out, just by playing around with the values, you'll get there. It took me a few minutes to get there, but I got there in the end, so I was quite happy with that. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. Just use a black and white mask, right? Just make a circle in Photoshop or Affinity Photo. Yes. No to subscription models. So yeah, just make a black and white mask. That's it, and I'll use that as a mask to blend between two shaders materials, and you can create that. So essentially that red bit can be anything, any color you like and any material you like, right? It'd be really cool. So yes, Seth, thanks for the question. I will be streaming the whole process, and I can't promise you tonight I'll be finishing this. I probably won't, because I put quite a few hours into making the helmet. But that was a lot of testing and mistakes on my part, so it's just learning. I'm a perfectionist in a lot of ways, which is not good, but I'm learning as I go along as well. And I've been doing this for years, but every model is different, and every model demands a different maybe workflow or technique. In this case, I used an add-on, which I don't normally do. In fact, I've never done before for modeling, so that was new to me. So I had to figure out a problem that I came across. So luckily I saw this add-on before in the past and thought, oh, that might work. So I tried it and it worked. So, it may not work for everybody, but it worked for me in this use case. So getting back to this helmet, after the recap, we've got a high-res quad sphere, we've got a lattice deformer on it, very basic stuff. And that works. You can see there, it matches pretty well. I'll just turn on the wireframe again. It matches pretty well in the side view, and it matches fairly well in the front view. Ignore the bottom part. We don't need any of that geometry. Now comes the next part, the next key stage of creating this helmet. So what I'm going to do is select that quad sphere, the modern primitive version, right? Let's increase the subdivision. So I want to do that by, the default is I think it was 2, wasn't it? Like that or something. So I'm going to increase that to maybe 6. And that looks quite dense, right? Which it is. So, don't be careful with that. Don't go crazy and put like something like 20, because Blender might crash. You don't want that. So speaking of, save your work. Control S. Save your work. Did I have a crash doing this? I think I had one crash actually. I don't know what caused it, but it just happened. So just be aware, software does crash. It's not, it has some software will always have bugs in it. Anyway, so I've increased the subdivision on this modern primitive cube, which has got the lattice deformer on it, right? So we're going to use that now. If I just turn off the wireframe there, we've got a really nice, smooth, high-res shape. Now, the problem I had by not using the modern primitive add-on was the next stage is I have to recreate this with a low resolution quad sphere. And that's where I really kind of struggled a little bit, because it meant a lot of faffing around with trying to get the exact same placement of the topology and with a much lower resolution. And I thought, well, if I had a modern primitive quad sphere, all I've got to do is change the subdivision levels, right? And that would be it. That would solve my problem. That's exactly what I did. So I'll show you how I did that. So if I select this one now, the quad sphere, Control D, duplicate it, and then right click to leave it in place. You can see there we've got the copy in our outliner. I'm going to double click that and call it low. Now we've got a low version. I'll just turn off the high one for a moment. There's our low version. I'm going to turn down the subdivisions down to 2. We got the side view. That should be 16. Basically, every quarter's got 4 like faces, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4, 8, 12, 16. Essentially, that's a 16 by 16 sphere, right? Quad sphere. So that's what we've got there. We've got the low res version of our high res version. The other difference being, in fact, there won't be a difference because we still have the shrink wrap, not the shrink wrap. We've got the lattice modifier, okay, assigned to it. And there's a key part in this as well, where I think the first time I did this, I made a mistake and I actually applied something when I shouldn't have. I might have applied it too soon, like the lattice modifier, because we have to use a shrink wrap modifier. Now that we've got this low res one, we're going to keep the high res. Just checking this chat there. If anybody's got any questions, please feel free to ask. I know I do talk a lot, as my colleagues will testify to that. Looking at you, Emmy. But yeah, if you have any questions about anything, not just this, just feel free to ask. I'm quite happy to branch off and answer any questions you have, or I'll do my best basically to answer your questions. I'll just say that this probably won't finish today. I will probably continue this maybe, if I'm lucky, tomorrow and do another live stream. Hopefully it will work straight off the bat this time, unlike today where I had some technical problems launching the stream. But yeah, keep an eye out for it, and I'll do my best to give you a heads up that I'm streaming once I figure out the problems I had today anyway. I was quite nervous about that, being my first time and everything. So anyway, I'll do my best to do as much as possible here. I'll do the key things, and then we can crack on with the detail in another video, right? Another session. So anyway, cracking on. Get some more water, I think. There we go. If you're wondering if that looks a bit, dare I say, yellowish, it's because I put in some electrolytes. So it's flavored. So yeah, that's what it is. It's not nothing dodgy, I can assure you. Right, so we've got a high res sphere. Keep focused here. Keep on the game. We've got a low version, which is the same thing but with 2 levels of subdivision. We've got a lattice deformer on that as well. Now I could get this completely wrong, so I'm just going to quickly check. Very quickly check the video that I did see, and just to make sure that I get the steps right, because I don't want to make a mistake and then show you guys the wrong way to do it. So bear with me. There it is. I'll just take it off screen for a minute because I feel bad that I downloaded it. Research purposes, I promise you. Obviously. So I'm just going to check to see what he's done there. I'll just turn off the audio. It's hard to see as well because he's using Cinema 4D and I'm using Blender, so I'm not really sure what he's applied and when, because it looks completely different on his side than it does to mine. So bear with me for a second. I'm just going to double check to see what's going on here. So you've got the low res version. Heck, let's just go for it. I'm not sure. I can't remember. Let's just close that. Let's wing it. Put myself on the spot. Actually, what are you guys? Anybody out there working on anything really cool? Any particular project that you're working on? Do you use Blender professionally, or just for as a hobby? A bit of fun. I'd love to know. Just tell you a bit about me, I guess. I do work full time, so That's probably why, if you are a regular viewer of my videos, maybe not so regular because I can't always upload a video every week. I would love to, but when you're working full time and you've got other obligations, it's difficult to find time to actually do the testing that I do, the modeling over and over again to test it, and then record it again properly, then do the audio. All the video editing takes hours and hours and hours and days of work. So in a week, I may not just have the time to do that. So yeah, I do use it professionally, every opportunity that I can, Blender, because it's fun for me. I'm a designer, I'm an artist, so I want to be using Blender in a professional capacity as much as possible, because I enjoy making stuff and making things look cool. So, and maybe I can learn some stuff that I can translate to my videos and share with you guys, right? But yeah, I also have my own, pet projects as well. Things like you might make modeling models to upload to somewhere like CG Trader or Blender Kit, try and make some revenue, right? Make some income from it. So again, it's just time, time is always a factor. So I will do that when I can and if I can. But yeah, that's me. I do use it professionally. A says in the chat, I have tried a few times to model an E-type. Wow, might try again soon, he says. Or she, I don't know if you're she, apologies. I'm not sure what I'm saying there, but yeah, that's fantastic. An E-type, a Jaguar E-type, right? That is the most beautiful car, absolutely stunning. I can imagine it's quite tricky, right? Let me just show you what that looks like if you're not familiar with the Jaguar E-type. I think it was voted, or not voted, but people think it's like, or the saying is, it's the most beautiful car ever made, right? You may disagree, I don't know, but let's just bring it over. Go to images. Excuse me. And there it is in its classic red. I love the blue color and the green chrome. Gorgeous car. Lots of chrome touches, as the cars in those days had. Gosh, I miss cars like this. They're really nice. Not that I was around when the Jaguar E-type. I'm not that old, all right? Just settle down. I'm not that old. But yeah, I do miss the days when cars had character, right? They actually looked different and they had these beautiful shapes and different shapes and even colors and all sorts. Now they're all much of a muchness. Very boring, I think, anyway. You may disagree, but that's fine. Anyway, yeah, Jaguar E-type, beautiful car. And if you're going to try again soon, I wish you... you said you tried a few times to model it, so I'm guessing you came across some stumbling blocks, some issues, and you might try again soon. I wish you the best of luck, and I would love to see what you do. If some way you can share that with the wider community, maybe drop me an email through YouTube, or I was going to say but yeah, I will be launching a website as well soon, just to share more information and put my videos out there a bit better. Maybe even some courses when I get time to make a course to sell that, maybe make some money from this. And dare I say, I'm not making a single penny from YouTube. So yeah, Seth, they're very cool cars. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I'm not monetized on YouTube, so this is all for free, guys. All my blood, sweat and tears and all my videos. Which is why it was really important. I thought I'd try live streaming and see how that goes. So yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a disaster at the beginning because the stream didn't work and I had to make an impromptu one. Yeah, anyway, there's the Jaguar E-type, absolutely stunning car. And yeah, that'd be a great one to model, actually. Really nice, really nice. Good luck with that, Seth. I wish you all the best. Sorry, not Seth, A. Seth says, I have a first generation Mini Cooper. We used to do rallies in the early 2000s. And we had an E-type come to one. Wow, that must have been awesome. Did you get any photos back in the day with a digital camera, maybe? First gen Mini Cooper. That's awesome. Tiny little cars. Now they're like dinosaurs. They're massive, like elephants now. Hardly minis anymore. Such a shame. Again, they lose character, these cars, over the years, and it kind of breaks my heart, right? Anyway, let's crack on. I'll try and keep an eye on the chat as best I can. Bear with me. I swear there was another chat window somewhere. Where's it gone? Seth says ads. My dad may have some photos, I guess. I know we took some of the E-Type. Yeah, that's fantastic. Good, great memories as well. It was great to see that you were there with your family as well. That's really cool. That's lovely. Nice one, Seth. I don't think I've ever owned any classic cars really. I mean, the closest I've ever got to is probably a Ford Capri. And that was probably, what year was that? That was my very first car, Ford Capri, with its huge bonnet or hood, as I say in America. And so, oh, just said another comment there. Thank you so much. Yeah, the brand is family orientated now, but the first gens were great drivers' cars. Yeah, yeah, that's a great point because now I think Minis are owned by BMW, right? The BMW brand. So the brand is family orientated now. Yeah, so they're much bigger, essentially, right? Not like the ones you see in Mr. Bean. The first gens were great drivers' cars. Yeah, sadly, I never had one to share that experience, I'm afraid. But I missed that. Like I say, my first car was a Ford Capri, which was a nightmare to drive, but it looked cool. But even though my car was like really cheap and disgusting and horrible, I still loved it all the same. Anyway, back to the helmet. Yeah, so we've got a low res modern primitive, 2 levels of sub D, and what the hell do we do now? I'm just gonna wing it. So what I think we have to do is apply the lattice modifier. No, and also no, actually leave the lattice for now. Apply the modern primitive modifier. That's it. So I'm going to save my work. There's our low sphere, right? And with the modern primitive one, I'm going to apply that. Now that's baked in. I can't change the resolution of that quad sphere, right? But we still got the lattice. So there it is before, here it is after. Now what we want to do is, I could get this wrong, but it is something like this, if I remember correctly. We're going to, I think, also let's apply the lattice as well. Heck, let's just do it. There we go. We've done that. Now we've got just that shape, right? And the high res one behind it. So there's our low res, there's our high res. So with our low res version now, we select the low one. I'm going to add another modifier. And let's call that under deform, select shrink wrap. And we're going to select now which object do we want to shrink wrap on. Well, the target object is going to be our quad sphere high. So use the eyedropper there to select that. Obviously you won't see any difference there at the moment, but you will later on. Now which settings did I use for this? I have no idea. Let me go and check in my other file. Hopefully it's there somewhere. I'll select that one there. So that's high 2, low. That's that one, that one, that one, low 3. So we've got mirror, subdivision, smooth, yeah, smooth, and shrink wrap. So we've got all these modifiers on the low resolution. That's the stage I got to. But before that, we have to get rid of the bottom bit of the helmet and make the hole in it. So that's what I'm getting at. So the first one had just the mirror and sub D, right, after we make the cuts. Let's go back to our file. So we've got shrink wrap. Let's just delete that for now. Actually, delete that. Let's go to the side view. Go back to wireframe. And let's just maybe hide the high one for now. Let's select the low one. Tab into edit mode. And we're going to select in vertex mode now. We're going to select all of the vertices at the bottom here. All of these. And we're going to delete them. So press delete and delete verts. And now we end up with that. Now we're just going to select these guys. Oh, I just remembered something. You see, I did it wrong. Don't hate me. I can go back a little bit. Hang on. Not go back, but I can just rotate stuff. Now what I didn't realize was, because when I saw that other video that inspired me to do this, the helmet is sitting flat on the ground. This one isn't. It's actually at an angle, or that angle, depending on the camera sees it. So yeah, this one's at an angle, right? It's got a slant. So I need this to be flat. It really helps. So what I have to do was I went back. In fact, I deleted everything and started again. But all you need to do is I'm just going to select all of these guys. In fact, first of all, select the reference image. So let's make that selectable. Select that one. Go to the side view. Let's turn off our helmet collection. Let's rotate that just by pressing R in the side view. And try and make this bottom part here straight. So I'm going to use the grid lines as a indicator. There's a line there. Let's rotate it again. Let's just use the annotation tool line. See if I could draw a line like this. Make it as straight as I can. Is that straight? I have no idea. Yeah, so let's rotate R. Press R. Oops. Rotate that. So it's roughly like that. That'll do. Let's not get too. Let's just delete that. Yeah, so I had to make it straight because I realized it was not going to work with it rotated like that. And that's because the moment I get to this part, if I turn on the just checking the chat again. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Is this okay, by the way? Please do give me your feedback. It's the very first time I'm doing this. So I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm enjoying it. I hope you guys are too. I know this seems like a lot, but that's because I'm going over stuff probably quite a lot. It's not that bad once you break it down. It's really literally got 3 objects here. In fact, 2 objects and a lattice. Not much to it, right? Let's select our low poly cube now, quad sphere. With all these vertices selected now, we're going to press S for scale, Z, and then 0, enter. So we flatten them, basically. Let's just bring those down. So they kind of match the... Let's bring them over here. And let's scale these up. I'm just going to scale them in the y-axis, actually. Not so SY. Bring them out like that. And we can probably do the same with these because I kind of messed up a little bit by not rotating it at the beginning. So I'm going to move these over in the middle and then scale it again. So SY. Bring them out just a little bit larger than the helmet. Something like that, right? That would do. That's where we want to be. So now we have that. I'll go back to object mode, solid mode. John Seedon, thank you so much. Very cool, buddy, he says. Glad you're enjoying it. Seth, and everything is good. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate the feedback. And a lovely star there from John as well. Back to you, buddy. Really appreciate you joining me today. Oh, bless you. Thank you so much to everybody. Anyway, we've got this very basic blocky helmet thing here. So the next stage is, first of all, let's add a sub D modifier. So let's go to generate sub D. Let's add 2 levels for now to start with. You can see immediately it shrinks the helmet down, right? Which it will, but that's okay because this is where the high-res version comes into play, right? There's a high-res version. There's a low-res version. Just turn off the sub D modifier for a moment. So what we're going to do is use a shrink wrap modifier and place it on the low-res version. So let's add another modifier now, deform shrink wrap. And this is now in the wrong order, I believe. Or is it? I can't remember. Let's check our previous file. So we go over here. There's a low. We've got mirror. Don't need that right now. Sub D, yeah. So sub D, smooth. We'll come to that later. And a shrink wrap. So in that order, that's what we want to do. So we've got sub D and shrink wrap. So now we're going to select the target for the shrink wrap. And that's going to be the high-res version. There. You can see immediately how that snaps to the high-res version. John says, glad I could be here. Me too, my friend. Me too. More than you know. And I'm sorry, I think it was yourself that joined the actual stream that was meant to go live. But then I had technical issues between OBS and YouTube. They weren't talking to each other. Probably had an argument or something. So I had to create a new live session, which did work. But obviously that wasn't the one that I advertised leading up to the live stream. So my apologies for that, John. I didn't know how to make you aware, really. I should have just maybe done something. I don't know. Anyway, my apologies for that to everybody. No worries, he says. Oh, bless you. So sweet. Right. So we've got the shrink wrap on now. You can see it kind of conformed to that lovely... let's turn our sub-D on. Look at that. Let's turn off our high res. Now we've got this lovely thing, which is the basis for our helmet. And that's pretty cool. Let's go to the right view. The only thing I don't like here is, one, it doesn't look like it's actually fitting the the helmet. Why? What's going on? What's going on? You know what? Shall I do that? That's made it even worse. Okay, that's my bad because I messed this up, didn't I? So we need to make these. Oh, actually, going back to the other file, you got things like these options for shrink wrap, and some of these might work better than others. So, for example, you got nearest surface point, you got target normal project, and all the other stuff. You may have to tweak this a little bit, and this one says on surface. I think that's the default, but let me just check. Yeah. So let's try maybe target normal. Oops, that didn't make any difference, did it? Don't crash on me. Let's turn off selectability on our reference images. There we go. So let's do, yeah, that didn't really, so that works. Where's that left high version? Oh, that is the high version. Why is it like that? I thought it was out there. Well, that's easy because I must have done something. Oh, it's because I rotated it, didn't I? I didn't fix the, I didn't rotate these guys. Oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. Let's rotate all of these. Sorry about that. That's rotated by how many degrees? Oh, goodness me, right. So that's rotated by 15.7. Let's just copy that and see if we can make these work the same. So select that, rotate it on the, oops, the X. No, hang on. You want to rotate that on the X, yeah. Yeah, so let's paste that in there. And we want to rotate the lattice the same. Or not. Going the wrong way. You know what, I'm going to do it manually. It'd be easier. So just select that, and just hit rotate on the side of you. Oops, and the lattice, and hit rotate. So we want about 15 degrees. If I do that, will it do all of them together? Press holding down the Alt key, press enter. Yeah, there we go. So if you hold down the Alt key, you've got more than one object selected. I think it only applies to transform to the one object, not all three in this case. So, but if you hold down the Alt key first and then press enter, it does it on all of the objects. So that's really cool. Seth asks, isn't it because you modeled the helmet without rotating it first? Yes. So it'll be a bit off. Absolutely, Seth. Yeah, absolutely right, mate. My bad. I did exactly the same thing when I was testing this about 3 or 4 times, and I forgot to rotate the reference, and then I started modeling it, and then I just made a mess because the things weren't working properly, and I was like, why? Then I realized because the rotation wasn't right. So yes, absolutely right, Seth. I'm an idiot. I modeled the helmet without rotating it first. So yeah, that will do. That's good enough, guys. Let's go to solid mode. Let's turn off hide our high object. Go back to side view, and of course our low one is now completely messed up because I'm an idiot. Let's turn off. In fact, we can just recreate that. That's what I did in another one. But I'm not going to. I'm just going to do S. Let's do local. Switch our transform to local and do SY and just bring that in. Move that along like that. Let's bring these out as well. Maybe a touch like that. So a bit larger than we need. And then select all of these guys and SZ0 enter. That's not working because I got it on local. Switch to global, SZ0 enter. Let's just move these into place like so. And the reason we're getting this curvature is because it's following the curvature of this high-res version. So again, it's about finding the right workflow in this case. And that's what I kind of struggled with, or made a few mistakes at the beginning where I was just doing the wrong thing. So let me just rotate these a little bit because I'm not quite in the middle, maybe something like that. So yeah, what I probably have to do is assign the shrink wrap modifier at this point. Select these points here, SZ0, enter. And now you've got a flat shape there. So that's probably why that's doing that. So yeah, that's fine. We'll just crack on. This is pretty much the process really. Just a quick recap. Once you've got your high res version, obviously rotate in the right direction. Sorry about that. In fact, that's probably wrong as well. I don't think I should have rotated that. I don't think actually. It should have been straight. Now that I think about it, yeah. Yeah, that was actually meant to be straight. I shouldn't have rotated it because that would then mean all the lines are slanted. And I really didn't want that, but we'll do our best to continue with that. So I might actually select this and I'm going to re-add the shrink wrap modifier just to see if this works. Select our high sphere. I'm going to nullify the rotation on that object and turn off this and this. I'm going to put this back to what it was. Go back, make sure you're in wireframe. So SZ0, enter. And this one I messed up as well, didn't I? So I'm going to rotate that back, scale it out a little bit, and then move it over here. And select these guys, move them over here. And press S, bring them out. That's what it should have been like. So sorry about that. So that's what it should have been like. You don't have to rotate the objects, just the reference, right? But anyway, we'll just crack on because it doesn't matter about the high one because that is the target for the shrink wrap. That doesn't matter. As long as it's roughly the shape of the helmet, we're good. Which it is, so that's fine. So we can now, we've got our shrink wrap on and let's turn on sub D, shrink wrap. We're going to apply the shrink wrap again, tab into edit mode and flatten these again. So apologies for the repetition, but it is what it is. So that's all we need to do there. Right, let's crack on with the next part. We've got a new, I can speak, my apologies. Welcome to the chat and the live stream. And I hope I do pronounce your name correctly. I do apologize if I don't. Roisinho says, hi, I did your Helldivers 2 prop. The best tutorial of Blender I found. I want to go through all of the ones you made. Thank you so much. That's really kind of you to say that. Wow. I'm speechless. Wow. John says, I actually have a helmet like this. Really? Cool. Why have I never... I need to look at helmets more in real life. I've never seen one in, like, held one or seen what they're like physically. That's really cool. Is it a retro style helmet, John, or is it more of the modern? Yeah, don't worry about my name, says Roisino. I'm so sorry. I'm sure I'm saying this all badly wrong. I'm so sorry about that. Thank you, but thanks for the kind words. Really appreciate it. Yeah, if you just joined, I think you have. We're making this helmet today. So that's the helmet there. Long story short, I was inspired by someone else's video. Oh, Retro Cafe, John says, for the helmet. Very nice. That sounds good. I'll have to look it up one day. Thanks, John. Yeah, so I'm making this helmet and I saw someone else make it in Cinema 4D or something, not this particular helmet, but a very kind of basic one. And I wanted to see if I could do that in Blender using the same kind of workflow. And long story short, I have to use, and not have to use, but it helps to use an add-on called Modern Primitive, where you can create non-destructible primitives. So you can change like the attributes after the fact. You can't do that in Blender normally, right? This really helped. So I used that. Anyway, if you're not sure what I mean, rewatch the video once it's live on YouTube, I guess. Not live, once it's on YouTube. Right, crack on. So we've got our low resolution quad sphere there, nicely shaped to our helmet. Now what we want to do is create the hole for our visor, our area that we can look through. Now it's quite difficult to see where this actually is because I don't know if you can see it. You can't really see it there. Let me just turn back on. There we go. You can see you've got the bit of padding trim around the whole of that area. So we're looking at roughly around this zone we want to cut out from the helmet. So if I go back to the side view, there's our quad sphere, a low poly one. If I tap into edit mode, we basically want to make basically select some faces here and just delete them and move around vertices. Now this is where the shrink wrap technique, you may have to add it and delete it and apply it, that kind of stuff. Because when you're modeling and moving around the verts, they're going to be out of whack. They're not going to be shrunk to the high res one. So we've already got rid of the shrink wrap modifier. So what I need to do is when I move these verts around and make the hole, I will have to reapply a shrink wrap modifier to the high res one to get back the overall shape in integrity. So I hope that makes sense. So if I remember correctly, what I did now, if I go back to my other file and I turn on wireframe just like there, got the side view. So I ended up with this shape first from this shape to that shape. So what I'm looking at here is we've got one segment, two segments, three segments down, then we delete this stuff here. So you've got an n-gon here as well, which I'll explain why it's an n-gon. It doesn't really matter when you subdivide it. And we're taking these areas here and just pulling these down to make this profile, this cutout. You can see it's a bit wonky down here, but it doesn't really matter because we can straighten that out easily. But yeah, let's work on this part here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, then we delete some faces. So switching over to this one, let's switch to face mode. And in fact, let's add a mirror modifier to this because we don't need the whole, because we want to make it as simple as possible. So let's model half of it. We don't need to worry about the other half. So I'm going to delete, go to the front view, or Control 1 to go to the other view, the other side of the front view. Go to wireframe, go to vertex mode. I'm going to select all of these guys on this side, press delete, verts, go back to object mode. Now we've just got the half. I'm going to use my add-on, BB Toolkit Pro, or free. I think you can do it in free as well. I'm not sure, I can't remember. Just click object. We want to mirror it on the x-axis. Turn clipping on and click add. And now we've got, let's drag that up here, of course, before the sub D modifier, because Blender will read them top to bottom, right? Right, so Seth, excellent question. Thank you for asking. Seth is asking, you said you use Blender professionally. Are you in the games industry? Sadly, no. I used to be. I'll give you a quick recap of where I've come from, what I've done. So Seth, I used to work, and all of you in the chat, I used to work in the games industry for about 14 years. That was a while ago. It's a long time ago. It's not in recent history. I used to work, to give you an example, I used to work at a time when the Commodore Amiga was a thing. If you're familiar with what a Commodore Amiga is, that's what really kicked off my journey as a designer, drawing on paper and doing watercolors. And then suddenly I see this Commodore Amiga in a shop window and I'm like, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, what the heck is that? So I had to have one, I had to figure out how to use it and how to draw and make cool things on it. And that kick-started my journey, if as it were, into getting a job in the games industry. I sent some floppy disks out, little 3.5-inch disks to random companies in the UK at the time. And there wasn't many of them around, actually. And about 6 months later, somebody sent me a letter, said, hey, you want to have an interview? And I was like, that's a joke, right? It's not a real letter. So I rang them and said, you've made a mistake. And they were like, no, we liked your demo disc. Come for an interview. So I did and got the job. I was so excited. So yeah, I worked in the games industry for about, give or take 14 years, maybe more. And I worked my way up from junior right through to studio manager for Sony. one of the Sony studios in the UK. So we worked on games like, I'm talking old because I am old, but to give you an idea of the kind of time frame, it was before the PlayStation 1 was launched. So I worked on a lot of Amiga games for the 500 and other ones, and then on some PC games like The Legacy from Microprose. If you Google that, you'll find it online. The Legacy from Microprose, and lots of other games I forget the names of. And then for Sony, we worked on, excuse me, a bunch of us went to work for Sony, set up a new studio. I need some water. Excuse me. Much better. And we started working. Obviously, Sony wanted a new studio for a reason, because they were getting into consoles. So the PS1 was on, it was barely out in America, I think, at the time, or launched, and we were drafted to head up a new studio and create games for the UK and European market, and I guess America as well, but with different names, because that's what they did back in those days. They do in those days. So yeah, I did work in the game industry. Long story short, I did for a long time, making 3D models, drawing by hand, pixel by pixel, using things like Electronic Arts D-Paint on the Amiga, which was amazing. Really miss those days. Now you've got software like Blender for free. Yeah, Seth says, so this is really before 3D games. Everything was still using sprites. Yeah, I mean, yes and no. There were some very basic 3D games, I believe, back in the day, even way before my time, like in the 70s, but not in the sense that we understand them now. But yeah, the 3D games at the time would have been maybe some lines connected, some dots, like vertices and lines, and some flat filled faces, maybe like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 polygons for a ship, like a pointy ship, like an arrowhead. That would be a spaceship, for example. So yeah, it really was low topology, like really basic, and that was still going along at like 3 frames per second or something stupid like that. Then we obviously, when the PlayStation 1 and 3D effects became a thing, that's when everything exploded into 3D acceleration, from 3D effects being the main winner of that era of evolution. No, revolution, in fact, in graphics for games and PCs, and the world as a whole. So it was a really exciting time to be into PCs back then, because everything was new. You didn't have, Nvidia was a thing, but they weren't the beast they are now. And there are, Microsoft. Yeah, John says Microprose classics. Yeah, man, absolute legends. And they're still around today, but not in the same way that they were back then. Sadly, they had to shut down UK operations. I think just kept it as a marketing hub. So, I was working for those guys for quite a few years. They gave me my first job in the industry, and then a bunch of us left to set up a new studio for Sony, so PlayStation and all that stuff. So yeah, those were amazing times. Yeah, and Seth, going back to what you said, there were all sprites, and what sprites means essentially is pixel drawn graphics that were even animated. So if you see a character like, trying to think of one, Sonic the Hedgehog, for example, or something else, they were hand drawn, pixel by pixel and animated like that as well. And I actually did that for a long time, for years, and I loved it. I didn't do animations, that really wasn't my thing. I did some basic stuff, but I did do a lot of pixel drawing. In fact, Seth says, I had thought Quake was essentially the original true 3D game for PC in 1996. At least FPS games, I guess. That's a very interesting point, Seth, because I watched a video a few days ago, and I can't remember who made it. It was Nostalgia Nerd, I think. I think it was Nostalgia Nerd. I don't know if you've heard of his channel. Look it up, Nostalgia Nerd. He does make some great videos. And I think he made one recently about what was the very first 3D game? And it's not as simple as you think. So I was like, what? Um, it was way before 96. I could be wrong. Don't take my word for it, but I was pretty shocked from what I learned in that video. Um, it might even go back to the 70s. I really can't remember now. Could be wrong. Don't take my word as gospel. I don't know, but yeah, Quake. Gosh, Quake was further along, obviously, after Wolfenstein and all that stuff, which was fake 3D. That was 2D with an illusion of 3D through some clever coding. But Quake was a true, yeah, was true 3D essentially. Um, yeah, Seth says, I'm sure it's quite a bit more complicated, but I do know that most modern game engines are derived from Quake. Yeah, probably, absolutely. Yeah, I wouldn't know, but um, it's an interesting discussion, Seth, because back if I remember back to Sony when we were doing our games in our studio for PlayStation and other platforms. Yeah, Seth says Doom, etc. was 2.5D. Yeah, absolutely, 2.5D. Good times. Oh man, Heretic and all those good games back then, fantastic. Um, Played those to death, by the way, all of them. Such good times. Yeah, when we were working, like to give you some background or maybe an insight into the gaming stuff. I don't know if you're working in the games industry, Seth. You know, power to you if you are. I do miss that a lot. Um, but at the same time, it kind of scares me because I'll see all the stuff that's been done now in games, and I'm like, how many polygons is that? Are you insane? Because we literally, but some not, but somebody said, um, like, there's a stupid analogy, like old games and new games, where someone said, um, the number of. No, don't apologize. Sorry to drag us off topic. I do want to see you finish the helmet. So do I. I'm sorry. I'm waffling on. I'll carry on in a second. But I remember somebody. I'll just leave it at this. But somebody said, um, they remembered games like me when they were like really low poly, right? Barely any polygons at all. And if you looked at a modern game, and they said that in a certain character's butt, there was more polygons on the whole world of these older games. And I was like, I just started laughing my head off, thinking, yep, that's one way to put it. That's so true. But yeah, I mean, modern games just blow my mind. Like the amount of detail involved in these polygonal meshes, and I know a lot of it can be sculpted and then retopologized, and there are some really clever software out there to help you do that. But that's not what so a lot of it is manual as well. Um, I did work up to a point where I was doing that stuff, but by that point, I think PlayStation 3 was barely on the horizon at Sony when I left. Um, so yeah, I didn't really get to see all the high res stuff like everyone else does now. I just did a lot of the games that were, you know, the detail that was available for that technology at the time. So PSP, PC with Voodoo or 3D effects or with or without. Then you had things like the PlayStation 1, then you had PS2, then you had like the Nintendo platforms as well, the Saturn and the Sega Mega Drive, which obviously we never worked on because they were competitors to Sony, right? So there's no way we could even, we had to beat those guys. So Sony did an amazing job, as you know, to this day. Haven't always agreed with their principles nowadays, like in terms of what they're doing with the platform, but that's the same thing can be said about Xbox now as well. They've really got to start pivoting and putting that boat in a on a straight line in a better direction, I think anyway. But anyway, let's get back on topic. Yeah, Seth, great to talk to you. I could probably talk about hours about this stuff. And also, just before I show you, if you're interested to see some of my earlier work, don't laugh. Please don't laugh. Um, Go to my really old website, and it's called Design by Theo. I don't know if it's still up. It should be. It may give you a warning, but ignore it. So designbytheo, yeah, .com. It says not secure because So your browser, depending on what you're using, might say, "Hey, this site is not safe." It is. It's just because I don't have an SSL certificate on it. I used to, but I wasn't going to continue paying for it and thought, take it off. So this is a really old website now, and it covers everything I've been doing over the many years I've been working in design. And if you head over to something like, I don't know, is it game design? Yeah, okay. This is like literally tip of the iceberg because there's so much more to it than this. Obviously, I was working for 14 years in the industry, so I did a lot more than this. But I'll just quickly show you what these are. This one here, I'll start with this one so quickly. These are personal projects, these ones up here, so ignore these. Um, this is some of my very first Blender stuff that I did back in the day, and I love this car, it's so beautiful. The Ford Shelby Mustang GT500 KR, 1960s, my days. I was showing my age now. But yeah, I made that in Blender. Never made a car before, and it turned out okay. I mean, there's a few issues here and there, but overall, my target was like 10,000 polys. Um, whoa. Thanks, man. If I just click that, it should be a Marmoset thing, I think. Come on. Yeah, there's a 3D model of the vehicle. I did this years ago. It must be like, I don't even know how many years ago now. 10? It's a long time ago. Show you the wireframe. Yeah, it's not the best, but it's good enough, right? Beautiful car. Not much interior. There's some there, but I'll stop the camera from getting too close because there isn't really a bottom of the car, and there isn't really a lot of detail in the dashboard because this was meant to be some sort of, I'll put quotes, test. When I was speaking to some company at the time, and they said, "Oh, make a car in 10,000 polys." I was like, okay, faces that is, but obviously you can see in the bottom left it says 139, sorry, 118,000 verts. So it's 100,000, sorry, not 10,000. So I can't remember, something like that. It's a long time ago. So yeah, that was one of my first projects in Blender. And then I also wanted to do a Nissan GT, but that didn't come out as good as I'd hoped because I messed up the back of the lights here. They weren't quite, like, if you look at it straight on the back, the lights are round, but then if you look at it from an angle, they're not quite round. So I didn't do a very good job on this one. I just stopped working on it basically. Anyway, going back to this is games industry stuff, and it's all old, really old, and literally a tip of the iceberg. Starting with this one. This was, I don't know if any of you out there are familiar with Edge magazine. I don't know if they're still around. I think they are. Yeah, these Games Radar. Yeah, it is that one. Does Edge magazine still exist? UK based, yeah. Yeah, they're still around. Anyway, these were the magazine, probably to this day as well, where it's not even there, Edge magazine. Why is it showing this? Anyway, it's a magazine, this one here, and it would, like, if you were in Edge magazine, you're like, you made it. Yeah, John said you remember them. Nice. This was like the Bible of game industry magazines at the time. You got PC format, Amiga format, all that stuff was great. But this was the one for the professionals, right? If you were in this, you were kind of on the radar, essentially. So, long story short, while I was working at Sony, I was asked to make very quickly an ad for a recruitment page. They wanted to just put a one-page ad saying, "Hey, here's some copy we want us to throw on to recruit people for our company," and just make up an image. So I didn't really know what to do. I didn't really have a brief, so I just made that basically. I don't know why. I just did that because it's gamey. That was done with Maya back in the day. I don't even think it was called Maya. It was called Alias Wavefront Power Animator, way before it became Maya. So that was on a Silicon Graphics machine, which are beautiful machines. The ones they used in Jurassic Park, actually. And to actually make Jurassic Park is on those machines that I used at the time. but the low end ones, not the really expensive ones. And we're talking really expensive, like mega bucks. These machines. They used an operating system called Unix, so everything you had to do was through command prompts, a command interface, and I loved it. It was just fantastic. So this was done in Maya, and it's some sort of humongous robot thing. The buildings there look terrible. I had some really cool spaceships that I'd modelled, so I had those lying around. So I grabbed them and stuck them in there. Put a lens flare, I think probably from Photoshop. I think that one is back in the day. Hasn't changed much, has it? Photoshop, still the same shite. So yeah, that was it, and we had some copy that went over the top of that. It's some of the dead space. That was in Edge magazine. That was quite cool. I also did a cover. If I go back, this was a cover for Edge magazine, I believe. That's why there's an empty space at the top there. So the title, like Edge magazine, would be there, and you have all the text like here and there. So that was, and this image came from the game that was featured in the magazine, which was G Police. That was kind of, I'm not going to say it was my baby. It wasn't, but it was something that I worked heavily on, and I designed, I guess, the main vehicle, which is this one. All done in Maya. And it was like a helicopter, but it had these rotating engines. Didn't have a prop blade. Had these two engines that rotated like that, so you can do vertical lift off, and they'd level off when you can fly forward, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I designed that for the game, and made the in-game version as well, and other vehicles and city blocks, buildings, that kind of stuff. That was called G Police. It was a great little game for its time. Graphically, it looked not particularly from me. I just did stuff, but yeah. John says, I remember that game, PS1, right? Absolutely. And what a great game that was. It was pretty tough back in the day, contrary to most modern games now, where they've got to hold your hand a lot more. Like, you've got to have a good time. Nobody can get upset with this crap. But yeah, if you search for G Police, you can probably find some videos. PS1, there you go. Yay! Oh my god, this brings back, yay! It's so many memories. Oh my god. Yeah, so that's the vehicle there. That must have been I designed. I made. Um, I didn't do the cover for the box. I didn't do the box art. Someone else did that, I think. Or did I? No, I did one for one market, and somebody else used another design for another market. But that was the game. I don't know if they have the credits in here. Oh man, good times. I'm just gonna mute that because just in case. But loved this logo. I think that was designed by so many talented people at that company. I was amazed to be working with them. Like, this guy could sketch, he sketched all day, and he designed a lot of the ships in the game. Other ships, not the main one, but a lot of other stuff. Probably better than mine anyway. And he designed the logo, and I was just blown away by it. That's the place we used to work at. We named it the Wheelhouse, and that was in the West Country of the UK. This is the motion graphics, not the motion graphics, the intro to the game, where back in the day you'd have pre-rendered animations for the games, and this is the one that we created. I didn't work on it because it was way above my. That wasn't what I did. I did in-game stuff. That's what I was good at. That was my strength. I was never given jobs like this because I didn't have anything to do with that. It just wasn't my thing at the time. I would love to have done it, and I probably could have done, but that was just given to somebody else. And that's fine. So I remember this being like amazing, and it still looks great today. And especially the motion capture for the people. Like, if I skip ahead a bit, the people stuff blew me away. Like, seeing characters move like real people, like this stuff I'd never seen before, and it just like mind blown. And I was in awe of the people that did this stuff. I remember the names, but I won't say them out loud right now. Yeah, that was a long time ago, and I miss those people. I miss the company, the talent that I worked with, the people that I worked with. Yeah, getting very nostalgic here. I'm gonna shut up. Yeah, this stuff blew my mind. There's the game. Look at that. The explosions were superb, absolutely superb. You had camera shake, and I didn't really see that from any other games at the time. This was like cutting edge at the time on a PS1 with all of its lovely texture distortions. These are some of my buildings there, and oh my god, the textures just warped everywhere. It's like, what the hell? But yeah, that's just the way it was back then. Great times. Anyway, let's close that. So yeah, that's G Police. These ones are interesting because these ones are all hand drawn with a touch of Photoshop here and there. Yeah, some of it was Photoshop, but a lot of these were hand drawn. These are actual texture tiles. And I created so many of these, but I don't have the files. I never had the files. There's no way to back them up in a day. We didn't have like flash drives or anything like that, or any way of backing them up. So I lost all this stuff years ago. I don't know who has them now. So I just have these from the PC back then that I was probably using. And these were all like mostly hand drawn. And they're modular. So you'd be able to create a whole village, maybe from this set, the interiors with this stuff. There's a bit of carpet, red carpet, some other stuff, some wall damage, some wallpaper. And then these would be the exterior, some exterior parts. Ace is awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, happy to share it. I hope it's interesting. I really enjoyed. Like, I can't really zoom. Can I zoom in on these? Like, I really enjoyed making these little designs, just drawing them pixel by pixel. Where are they? There we go. Little pixel drawings, and they all had to be 16 colors. Yeah, 16 colors each, no more, because they were gonna go on a PlayStation. So you only had a palette of 16 colors, and that was your lot. So you did them at high res as much as possible, maybe 256 or more in Photoshop if they were done in Photoshop. Some of these, then you just reduce the colors down to 16 into a 16 color palette. But that was amazing to do that and see them come to life in the game. And these were taken from these are for a game called Medieval, and you may have heard of that. It was a massive franchise for Sony at the time. If I can find it, Medieval game. You probably recognize it, that one there. That's the game. So I worked on Medieval 2, I think. I can't remember now which one it was, or 3. I don't remember, but it was for the PlayStation 1. Maybe it was the first one, I don't know. And I did a lot of the graphics for the levels. I did a lot of the levels in that game, like all the environments. I loved that. That was such great times. See, that's that. This is actually another PlayStation game. This is how it would look in your software in the company, like on Sony systems. You can see that you've got all these black areas. That's because those are transparent areas. Then you had areas like this where the lights are. So they have a texture map that would fade to black, and they'd be processed in a certain way that they would look like lights. It was just what the Sony could do back in the day, right? Now we take it all for granted, but back then, having these kind of effects with like a texture map was never seen before really in games. So we had to have certain ways to like cool things, certain names, like naming conventions, and textures had to be of a certain type and format to work. So all these were just like single textures put together to create an environment. So I made these textures, and I look back on these really fondly. Again, all 16 color blocks. But all of these were little just blocks, all 16 colors each. Before they ran on the actual PlayStation itself. So that was that. So that's G Police again for the cover. And this one was my kind of game. That was my baby. I managed to convince Sony to make a game called Nations. That was my game name. I just wanted it to be called Nations, nothing else. Not Fighter Command. That was marketing. But the idea was going to be a World War II, realistic World War II. Seth asks, so you did level design too? No, I don't remember. I don't think I did, because I remember them. Oh, did I? Hang on. I can't remember. Maybe for that one I did, but not much. A lot of the times I'd be given a level that someone else made, and it would just be blank, like grey shaded, grey shaded, no textures on it. or vertex lighting. That was also the big thing back then. To use vertex painting, right, to add more detail and visual detail to your scenes. So I did the textures and I did the vertex painting to add like shadows and things like that. We didn't have shadow maps and all that stuff. Like baking, it was all just done by hand. So I did all that by hand. So yeah, I didn't do the level design mostly. Someone else did that, and I just made them look pretty essentially. So yeah, Nations was my kind of game concept. So I pitched it. I didn't pitch it, but I wrote the draft up and sent it to. I handed it in, and because they were looking for new games to make, rather than the usual stuff. And I was really into World War II stuff, like I am now really, like World War II stuff. I don't really play them that much anymore. And I wanted to see a game where it was like realistic and accurate, like flight models and the graphics were updated and all this kind of stuff. So I wrote one called Nations, and I put it through, and it got selected, and I was like, no way. So we started working on the game. It's all on PC, not a PlayStation. This one. It's quite a heavy game at the time, to be fair. I think we were one of the first games at the time, but then everyone else did it probably before us. They released them before we did, where we did actual 3D clouds, like volumetric clouds in the world, and that was again unheard of at the time. So I was blown away when I saw that, and then some other games company will release a game, and suddenly they had 3D clouds, and we're like, oh no. But yeah, this was some of the designs that I did for it. So that was going to be the cover. In fact, that was very similar to the box artwork. That might have been the box artwork, actually. I'm not sure. And it was called Fighter Command in the end. Nations Fighter Command. And these ones are the actual user interface when you launch the game. So you'd select your mode, and each of these would light up when you hovered your mouse over it. And all that was done. All this is done in Maya again, because it's still at Sony. All done in Maya 3D. Yeah, each one is made by hand, crafted and colored and rendered and all that stuff. Good stuff. So you have different screens. This is like the mission screen, so you can have your text overlaid on top. You can click on stuff. That was some other stuff like intel, or again might be briefing or some kind. This is your medal box. So I modeled everything here, the medals as well, and rendered all these out. That's just a touch of what I did on that game. I did a lot of in-game graphics as well for the majority of it. And some other game stuff over here I won't go into. That was 3ds Max, this one, for another games company called Kuju at the time I was working for. The game got never made. It was called Top Gear. Not the Top Gear from the BBC, but we called it Top Gear internally at the time. And it's all done using 3ds Max, as you can see there. So I designed some vehicles leading up to like the game design kind of thing, get a concept for the game going. So I did this lovely, I really liked this at the time. I thought it was great. And I still look at it and think that's pretty not too bad. Hovercrafts concept. So I was quite proud of that. And I also did some mock-ups of what it's called Top Gear World Series. I don't think we could have got away with that. But yeah, that was going to be like it's the mock-up of the user interface when you load the game. So you got single player, all that, the options, that kind of stuff. So I rendered and made these background vehicles and stuff. There's the hovercraft, and some other vehicles are made as well. These are all concepts. So yeah, really old stuff. Anyway, I'm going to shut up and crack on. So yeah, if you want to check it out, designbytheo.com. There's a lot of like old stuff here. And some more recent stuff, but this is old as well. 3D is just general 3D, like Blender stuff, Max stuff here, a lot of some Blender work. This was my very first Blender project, this one, ever. The very first one. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. And I had to do it quick, like literally in a few hours, because I think I pissed off the CEO by using vector graphics stock images like for the coins. And he was like, oh no, we don't like that. That doesn't look realistic. And I was like, oh my God. So I just fired up, downloaded Blender, because that's all I had. Didn't have 3D software in the company. So I just downloaded Blender and fired up YouTube, stuck it on another monitor, and started typing in, how do I model a cylinder? How do I model how do I make bump maps? How do I extrude? I had no idea what I was doing. And I just literally made that in a few hours, and it's terrible, but it did the job. Thought that was amazing. But yeah, it did the job, and it's, yeah, sorry, not the microphone. It did, it did what it was meant to do. So you can see some stuff there, some renders of the coins there. Terrible. Anyway, that's that. Goodbye. Back to the helmet. So let's go crack on. So let's go to the side view and tab into edit mode. We've got a mirror modifier now, remember. Let's go to wireframe. And what I'm going to do, actually, let's go to solid and X-ray. Select faces. Let's delete this one, that one, that one. Oh, we need to cut here. Sorry, we need to cut there. It's Control R. Add a loop cut there. Done. Back to face mode and select that one, that one, and that one, that one. That's just that one there. Press delete, faces. Back to side view. And now we have to move these verts around because they're all over the place. So let's go to vert mode. Just move these and bring them into line with our, that should be up there really, shouldn't it? Something like that. So instead of dragging these like this freely, what I like to do sometimes, I didn't do it here, but I should have done really, is press GG. GG, so G is grab you and you can move it around. But if you press G twice, you slide it along the edge. So I'm just going to slide it along that edge there. So let's go here maybe. I'm looking at this bit, but that's the visor. The actual cut is there. So I'll select that one, press GG, slide it up around there. And how we doing in the chat? All good? Again, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask. You're more than welcome to do that. I'd love to engage with you guys. Let's just move this one a little bit more over here. Let's move that one in. I think it's about there, right? This one can be, I don't know, let's keep that one there, I guess, for now. So we got that now, right? Oops, let's turn off X-ray. Let's turn off wireframes. Now we have that. Let's turn back on sub D. Now we have this. Now, the problem we have is, again, it's not quite following the profile of our reference image, and that's because we don't have the shrink wrap modifier enabled. We took that off, right? So if we go back to my other file, you can see, let's get rid of all of my annotations there. Because we've done this now, right? We've got to do that bit there as well. So let's go back and tab into edit mode, turn off sub D. And what I need to do here is, did I add another edge loop there? I think I did. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So I think what I'll probably do is select this edge here, just do Control B to bevel it. So we do that. However, instead of just doing it like this, I'm going to select percentage and then increase the value. So we get more of a natural spread of vertices each side. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. So something like that. That would do. Right. And when I select this edge, just check 1, 2, 3, 4, then the Engon. 1, 2, 3, 4, then the Engon. Yeah, select that edge there. And the reason we're deleting that or dissolving it, if I press delete, do dissolve edges. Right. In fact, that broke the profile there because we did the wrong deletion. We did the wrong type of delete. You need to select delete, limited dissolve, and that will keep the shape without losing, but whilst losing the edge. So that's what we want an Engon there. Just the way. And the reason for that is because when we add, if we kept this like straight, it didn't work very well because this bit down here doesn't translate very well. If there was a connection, something like, I can't remember what it was now, but it didn't work basically. So by creating an Engon, the fact that we're going to subdivide it, it doesn't matter because you now can see there we've got triangle quads, so it still works, right? But feel free to do, something else that works. It doesn't have to be like that. In fact, I'm quite surprised I left it like that. I think it could work the other way as well. But anyway, let's crack on. So we've got that. Oops, go back to 3. And what I'm going to do is go back to the other one now. See what I did here. Oops. Where's my... There it is. There's my test file. So we've got this version now, where you can see it's all bent here. Not very straight, but here it's straight. That's probably because I straightened it myself. So, you know, we can do that. This is our live version, right? Yes, it is. Let's save it. And we can tab into edit mode. It is straight. I've already straightened that, so that's fine. Then we come to over here. You start adding again the shrink wrap modifier and stuff to make it work. So at this point, we're going to get to this stage, right? So let's just see what we got. Got the end on there. In fact, that's a straight edge there. Yeah, get rid of this. We got rid of this vertex there, so I'm going to delete that. Sorry, I should delete that. Yeah, so delete that and do dissolve vert. That becomes a straight edge, and now we can move these. If I go to wireframe, we can move these like that. Right, get that shape to go in there. That's probably too low. Let's bring it up. All quiet in the chat. I hope I haven't put everybody to sleep. I think some people might have dropped out, but I appreciate that because it's quite a long stream and a lot to go through. But this is the job, right? This is what you've got to do to make things happen. You've got to put the work in. Let's select this edge and press GG to slide it up. Spread out the vertices a bit more, a bit nicer. And now we have that. That's cool. Now we're there, essentially. Now we make the hole in the where the ear piece is. So I'm going to select. In fact, let's just play around with tidying this up a little bit. Let's just hide the lattice and just keep the low one for now. Let's tidy this up a little bit. So the stage here is important because we need to space out our topology. John asks, do you end up designing the visor separately, like its own model, and then bring them together? Yes, I did. I thought at the time, John, that I would actually borrow from the helmet, like the overall cutout, and then duplicate that and then get some of that and make the visor. But no, I literally just added a plane and then just extruded it out and curved it around the helmet manually by eye so that it worked the way I wanted it to, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain, but it didn't take that long because it's just a plane. And it gets a bit fiddly once you start getting into the nitty gritty, like working around that bulge around the ears was quite tricky. But again, it didn't take much. Like if you look at the image here, you'll notice if I can find a better angle, like this bit here where the bulge is here, this actually the visor has to bend out and then flat again here to go under this hinge that's on the outside. So it needs to be flowing there and then following the outline of the helmet along the other path here. So by keeping it really simple, again, just using a plane with a few extrusions and adding a subdivision modifier, that becomes nicely smooth, no problem. So we'll get to that at some point. If I can find a better angle for that. Can't really see it, but yeah. We'll get to that, no worries. So yeah, it was modeled separately. Okay, let's tidy up our topology. So we don't really need to look at it in the side view. So all you want to do now is space out all of the verts so we get nicer topology and we try and get squares all over as much as possible rather than, say, this, which is like a rectangle. It's like, well, it's a stretched rectangle. You want to try and avoid that. You want to try and get as much squares as possible, like these ones. So you can do that just by, in this case, we can select this edge loop here, alt click it, deselect that one, and maybe press GG, slide it down a bit, give it some more space. But another way to do that is using an add-on. It's built into Blender. All you've got to do is enable it. It's called Loop Tools. I'm sure you've all heard this before. Amazing. Thank you, John. Loop Tools, it comes with Blender. Just enable it, take it on. You'll thank me for it, I promise you. And that gives you some really cool functions. One of them being spacing things out evenly. So if I select, for example, a vertex here, here. In fact, I won't do it from there. I'll do it from here. So that one, these ones here. So from that point on, select these, then do right click, loop tools, and select space. Now let's space them out evenly along that edge. If I do the same on these ones, select those, right click, space. And then finally, these ones here. We're kind of getting there. Let's do these as well. So by which point do we do them here though? Do we do it from here or do we do it from there? That's the question. So I'm going to do it from there and see what happens. We can always undo it if it goes a bit pear-shaped, right? Let's do loop tools, space. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Let's do it again. Actually, it didn't make much of a difference, did it? So just keep it there. Let's do these then as well. Because you've got to do these if you've done those, right? Yeah, that spaced them out quite nicely. Now we just got to do that anywhere else we can see, like that needs it. So maybe do it on these as well, like across this way. Space them out, space these three together. And then these three. So I know it's fiddly work, guys, but again, this is the stuff that you have to do, really, to make your life easier later on. I know, I think it was Seth that asked, or was it A, was asking about topology, like why use a sphere instead of why use a quad sphere, not a sphere? It's for this reason, because you want your topology to be nice and clean and make sense. Otherwise, it can cause you issues down the line. So the next thing I want to do, we've done the vertical ones and then some of the horizontal, I guess, but we want to do some of these over here now. So you can select these ones here up to maybe there, then do space, and that shifts them like that. Quite extreme. Let's see what happens if we do these. We can always undo that if you're not happy with it. Yeah, let's do these ones down here to make sure we're not going crazy. So we did it up to that point there, I believe. So keep it consistent. You can see that does it in a nice way now. This is okay, that would do, these ones. And these are okay. That one you could, at a push, like if you do GG to move it down this way, you want it to go up, but it won't go up over here. So you can hold down the Alt key and it will go all the way up now. It will slide along this edge here, right? It's not going to be stopping basically. So I press GG, go down a bit, and hold down the Alt key, it now continues to go up. So you could do that if you wanted to, just to maybe space this out a little bit nicer, but make it more rounded here. But that's essentially what you need to do. That's it. So I'm not really keen on this going down like this, but I think it's fine. It should be if we turn on sub D. By the way, is my audio actually okay? I didn't even ask about my audio, if that sounds okay. We'll crack on. Let me know, guys, in the chat. So that looks pretty good. Let's save that. Go back to our other file. Yeah, we need to delete. I'm sorry, I've got too many polys on mine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ah, I've got 7 on this one. What did I do different? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Whoopsie. I thought that was the difference there. But it doesn't really matter, to be fair. Just delete these faces here. Make the whole. And in fact, we don't. But the thing is, the difference is, but notice here, this is the engon down here. And the hole is not next to the engon. It is, but it's over here, not here. If I delete this one, it's going to be right on the engon. So I think we need to fix this. I don't think this is a good idea. So I'm actually going to get rid of. So yeah, so that, okay, there's a line down here. And then just that one there. So let's get rid of that. In fact, let's select these ones. Press GG, slide them down to about there. Select GG. So let's select these ones. Press GG and slam them into that one. Now they're overlapping, right? That's a mess. Go to vertex mode, select everything, right click, merge vertices by distance. Now we just merge all these together. So now we've got back our line here, but we've made a mess of our spacing again, haven't we? So we've got to do that. Let's see if this works. Loop tools, space. Yeah, sorry about that. You can see where I'm going. Audio is good. Thank you, John and Seth, for the feedback. John says, true, motorcycle helmets are rarely perfectly spherical. Instead, they are typically shaped as either intermediate oval or long oval. Wow, did not know that. Did not know that. Hello, Bob Jones. Welcome to the stream. Good to have you. Quick reminder, if you can, hit the like button. This is my very first stream, and let's make the YouTube gods happy, please. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. John says the other model had 7 too. Did it? Am I going nuts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It did have 7 here, didn't it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we started with 7. Then I reduced it down to this. Bob Jones, welcome. He says, I made a Boba Fett helmet. Wow. That's the one I'm thinking of. Is that the one I'm thinking of? That's the Boba Fett, isn't it? The Star Wars one, right? That's the Yeah. I was thinking about doing this one months ago. You did hit the like button. Thank you, Bob. Come on, peeps, hit that button. Yes. That's the spirit, Bob. Thank you, mate. Thank you, John, as well. Liked. Very much appreciated. Thank you so much. Yeah, that is Bob. Yeah. I did think about this months ago, and I was like, I started doing like research and trying to find source material. Then I found so many derivatives of it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave it for now. I'll do something else. So I probably did Helldivers, I think. Yeah, I think I was that. I did Helldivers too. What was that grenade called? That one, whatever it's called. Thermite grenade, that's it. Yeah, this is amazing. That is such a cool object to make. Yeah, I saw that in a shop the other month. So cool, but so expensive, so I didn't buy it, but I would love to have bought that. But yeah, it's a great thing to model. How did it go? Did any major problems, Bob, with the helmet, or did you physically make it? Maybe did you make it out of stuff physically in the real world, or did you model it? Yeah, there is a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of variation on the model, on the helmet. So I just kind of not didn't get put off, but I just thought, I'll just focus on Helldivers because I really like that game. I was enjoying that. Let's go back to this. No, it was fairly easy. You said, wow, really? That's great. And John says, design your own variant and then 3D print it. Yeah, that is a very good, actually. You did it in Blender, Bob. Nice. Man, that'd be great to see that. Is it online anywhere? Maybe if you can post a link in the chat. I don't know if you can do that. I've never done this before, so feel free if you can post something in the chat. I don't know. Try it maybe. Share that with the world. Yeah, so that's a great point, John. Design my own variant and 3D print it and then paint it as well. Wow, I need to do something like with 3D printing, like make something and print it out by some company and get it delivered to me. I would love that. Right, let's get back to the helmet because I need to get this side thing done. I need to figure this out. So, what did I mess up? Turn off sub D and mirror for a minute. No, leave that on actually. Excuse me. So, there was a cut here, but not there. Okay. So we need a cut there, but not. Ah, I see. We don't need this one. Yeah. So let's delete that and do limited dissolve, right? No, actually, get rid of that. Let's deselect that one. Do Control Delete to dissolve that, and then select this one. Let's do Control Delete as well. Yeah, that works fine. Okay, yeah, now we're there. So we just need to space these out again now. Oh my gosh, sorry about that. Let's just do it from there quickly. Apart from that one. Space them out. Oh, that is spaced out. That can't be, surely. That can't be spaced out. You can take a pic. Yes. John says, hell yeah. Hell yeah, man. Do it. Space them out. There you go. That worked. Oh my god, this is not looking the way I expected it, but hey. Have faith, people. Have faith. We shall get there. Do all of you do this when you're modeling in Blender, or is it just me? Am I just rubbish? I don't know. Let me know. Oh my gosh. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna call that. Yes. There's our other one before. There's the one after. That's blooming good enough, right? Apart from that bit there. Let's select these. I'm gonna select that as well. And press GG twice. Slide them up. And then select these guys. Press GG. Slide them up. Like that. Oof. Maybe that one. GG. Make it straight. Okay, now I'm getting too fussy. Let's leave it there. Bring that one down a bit. And that one up a bit. Stop. There we go. That'll do. Yeah, so that's good. There we go. Lovely. Let's turn off optimal display so you can actually see what our topology is when we're getting that. And that's looking pretty good. So we do have a pole there, but that's okay. That looks perfectly smooth to me. And just to verify that, let's head over to Madcap. There you go. Looking good. Superb. Happy with that. Let's save that. Go back to Studio. No comments. Cool. No chat there. Next stage is to make the hole for the ears. So do you know what? Let's copy that. So let's turn off the sub D. Let's copy that and move it. There you go. Let's copy the original one there. Let's move that all the way over there. Now we're going to start keeping a track record of what we've done. So if we mess this one up, we can go back to that one, right? It's always a good idea. Or put it into another collection. Bob says that's the link. It's not textured yet. I can't see the link though, Bob. Did you? I'm guessing you posted it, but I just can't see it. I'm guessing YouTube won't allow links. Interesting. I'll tell you what, guys. If you want to, let me just put in. I won't put it in the chat, but I do have an email account for Beyond Blender, and if you that's it's blender.beyond@gmail.com. So Blender, yeah, bummer, yeah, sorry about that, Bob. Yeah, probably there is no link, probably a YouTube thing, yeah, definitely. Tight guidelines, what can I say? Yeah, so you can reach out to me on an email, or on Discord actually. Yeah, Discord. What am I saying? Got Discord. I don't really actively promote this stuff very well at the moment because I do work full time as well, so time is precious, right? I don't have much time on my hands to try and make videos and do everything else. So I do have a Discord channel. I just don't get on there very often. And just look for Beyond Blender on Discord. You'll find my logo on there, the BB logo, and join. Yeah, and we can share stuff there. Fantastic. Yeah. So let me just put that on there. Discord. Just search for Beyond Blender. There we go. You should find me with that. And bear with me. I'm gonna do a shameless plug. All right. Again, I've not promoted anything like this before because I've only just done it. It's only taken me 2 years. And do bear with me. I just want to come out and say I launched Patreon. Yay. So if you're interested in supporting me and the channel and all the hard work that I put into it, and do bear in mind I'm not monetized, so I don't make a single penny from YouTube, despite my many months of working on it. Oh my God, what am I doing with my life? Yeah, I've launched a Patreon thing. If I can find it, I'll show you. There we go. I think that's it. Yeah, it is. What's this? Hang on, I'm not making sure I'm not logged in. Looks a bit weird. Am I logged in? View as create. Oh, view it as a paid member. Okay. I'll tell you what, if I just look at it on another browser where I'm not logged in, that'll work, right? That should work. Sorry, I'm doing it on another screen, so bear with me. There we go. Right, here it is. So yeah, I recently launched, oh gosh, reject non-essential. I launched a Patreon account. So I've actually had it for a long time. I just never managed to get around to actually making it live, which kind of sucks. Like I say, I shouldn't really keep saying it, but I'm not monetized on YouTube and anything like that. So, you know, I do have a healthy number of subscribers, but I'm not monetized. So it's just one of those things. And I haven't put a ton on Patreon yet, but I plan to, obviously, because it's now live. So I need to pull my finger out and actually put stuff on here for members. But if I just quickly show you what I'm offering, maybe if it's of interest to anybody out there, I have no idea. Oh gosh, okay. So €4 a month. Just for my immense gratitude for supporting the channel, and you get digital downloads and polls and fan engagement, all the good stuff. And so that's really just to obviously support me at the base level. But this one I think is going to be hopefully of interest to you guys. You get my add-on for free. It is a paid add-on. I'll give it to you for free, and you get all the future updates for free, of course. Even the ones that are not released yet, you can have a copy of them to play around with if you want. In fact, the one I'm using in Blender is the unreleased version, because I'll show you what it's got. If I can find my Blender. There it is. So at the moment, the one in the public, in the world, out there for sale, doesn't have this bit at the top, which is, it says assets. And that's because I've been working on this for a long time. And again, it takes time to do this stuff. But essentially, what this is an asset library. So if I click load library, it does work. I've been using it for a long time now. You can select between models and materials. Just go back to the chat if I missed anything. Where's the chat? There it is. Nope. Okay. All good on the chat. Yeah. So if you load the assets, you get materials and models. I don't know if I'll be doing that many materials because there's so many free out there, and you got Blender kit and you can buy thousands of them for like $5. And I'd rather be modeling stuff than making materials, to be honest with you. So I did some for now, but essentially you can select different categories of materials and models. So for example, imperfections, I've created, these are all procedural, by the way. They're not using texture maps. So you can just load them and then adapt them to whatever you want. So you've got things like grunge and scratches. You can't really see that very well here, but trust me, that is a scratches thing. Metals, I've got some basic ones in there I've put in for now, like gold clean, gold distressed, metal with cracks, still anisotropic and still clean. You get the idea, right? Stuff like this, you can just procedurally change and do what you like with and just hit download. Modeling's way more interesting for me. I love this stuff. I've got huge backdrop stuff like this, which I've only got one at the moment, and it's kind of massive like this. It's got a platform in the middle and some columns and plants. That's all not textured, other than maybe some basic colors, but it's all for you to do. It's just there for you to do whatever you like with, essentially, and use however you like. So you've got things like that. I've only done one for now. So for example, infinity walls, right? You've got 6 of them here, all different shapes and sizes. So I use this quite a lot when I'm rendering stuff for the YouTube channel, for my videos, where I show you animations at the beginning. I just drag these in and just, put a material on it, and I'm done. insignias. I actually made these for work, where I currently work. And to answer a previous question, I didn't kind of answer it. I don't work in the games industry anymore. I work in iGaming, which is like casino related stuff and online betting. I'm not a betting person myself. I'm not advocating it or anything like that, but it's just a job that I do to pay the bills, right? So I create campaigns and graphics for that kind of stuff. So it might be, hey, there's a football match this weekend between, I don't know, Liverpool and Everton, and there's a big rivalry there. So I might need to create some graphics for that, or something else, tennis tournament or whatever it might be, or a slot game, a casino slot game or something. But anyway, that's what I do nowadays. So I made these for work, but I just thought that'd be quite cool to just put out there on my add-on. And again, this isn't released, so I will be, giving this to anybody that supports me through Patreon. You get all of this for free. So you can just download these models and just literally do whatever you like with them. Just render them, and they're all high res, clean models, good topology, and they work really well. You've got some people in there, so if you want to get a sense of scale in your architectural visualization, maybe, or to your objects in your scene when you're putting a scene together, you want to make sure you're working to real world scale. John says, cool, best industry. John, are you saying you work in the iGaming industry? I don't believe you. What are you saying there? Let me get some water. Yeah, it's a good idea to have these as a reference. So they're built to scale. So you just click on maybe the male or female, whatever, click download asset. It will download it. Then you can just click add asset. And now we have our human in our scene. It's a flat cardboard cutout. John says, maybe. I take that as a no then, because I'm silly. So yeah, there's a cardboard cutout of a male and female. If you want to get an idea of maybe how big your scene is, you want to use that as a reference thing. You can see our helmet is massive. Anyway, moving on. I've got things like plant pots and stuff I looked into for the moment. Platforms, I've got a ton of those you can use to maybe show off some product visualization or animations or whatever, whatever you want to put on top of a platform. Promotional. Oh, look at that, number 7. I wonder where that came from. TV, you want to put a TV in your scene with a, what do you call it? A sound bar. There's a TV there right there. Table items, there's a few table items you can just drop in. Very nice. Tables, you need a table. There you go. You've got designer tables, coffee tables, side tables, and all sorts of stuff. And walls. There's a lot of stuff in here. These are modular wall pieces, and there's no specific theme per se. It could be sci-fi, it could be horror, it could be whatever you want. But the plan is that I'll be making hundreds, if not thousands of these and adding them to the add-on. In fact, the add-on will automatically update with the assets because they're all served through, offline, the cloud as it were. So this will update when you hit reload library. Anything new that I add into the cloud, onto the server, will be automatically recognized by the add-on, and you will get it for free. So, just this alone, I spent weeks modeling this stuff, and they're all pretty. You can use them for in-game as well. These are suitable for in-game. If you want to create a modular level in Unity or Unreal Engine, you can use these and just put them together. Maybe mix it with your own stuff, no problem. So that's just a flavor of what I want to do there. So there's going to be essentially a ton of stuff I'm adding to the add-on, as well as other features and tools that I've already got planned to release. But again, I just haven't had the time to really look at that recently. So the version out there doesn't have this right now, but this will be coming. And as this gets released and added to, the price will increase because the add-on at the moment is literally cheap as chips. It's like $4, $5, something like that. Really cheap. And I put not a lot of money, but I put quite a bit of money into this add-on already. So I couldn't do it myself, so I had to hire a developer to do it, help me do it. So yeah, I will try to add more to this, and then the library will grow. So if anyway, I'll cut to the chase. If you're interested, you get the add-on, you get behind the scenes content. Will up, like for example, the helmet stuff I was doing for testing. All of that will be on Patreon. I will record it as I test, research. I'll talk through I'll show you my mistakes, the errors that I've made to get to where the video is at the end, and so on. And if you really want to go for the full Monty, you can get this membership level where I'm happy to have 1 hour sessions with you or longer. I really don't mind, within reason, to help you out with maybe some Blender stuff yourself. Maybe you've got a project you need some help on, or you just want another. Why is that in there twice? What? You get double polls and fan engagement. Oh my God. I'm rubbish. So yeah, you get exclusive live streams and behind the scenes content, as I say, as well as over here. So all that good stuff is all going to be there. It's all there for you. And of course, because I've just done this, I don't think I've got any members. So me, myself, and I. So yeah, I need to populate this with a lot of stuff. So everything I do from now on, I will have to record, like at least snippets of it as much as I can, because hard drive is a thing. Hard drive space. Can't get enough of those polls. Hey, John says. Let's put a little smiley. Oh no, it didn't give me an icon. Let me do that again. Where's all the normal icons that you get for smile emojis? Oh, there we are. There's one. Yay. Yeah, so yeah, I need to start sharing more of that. So everything I do from now on, whatever it is, I will share with you guys and the patrons out there who are happy to support me, and that would be fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to shut up about that. Get back to our helmet. 10 hours later, and we've only got a basic low poly helmet. I'm going to crack on, guys. Whoa, it's getting late. I don't know where you are in the world, but it's here. It's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning. And do you know what? I don't care. I enjoy it. I could do this all night. Let's crack on. Right, where are we? We've got our helmet. Looks good. Yes, let's make the hole for the ear. Might as well go to the side view, right? Let's tab into edit mode. But wait a minute. Let's copy that bad boy and put it over there, in case I haven't done that already. I'm going to do it again. Shift D. Move that over there. Just in case I haven't done it, but you never know. You can never have too many backups, right? Right, let's tab into edit mode, select that face and delete it. Ta-da! Job done. Now we need to make this more roundy. I don't know what that means. Squarish, right? More squarish. Because you want to make this as round as possible. And we've only got four verts to do that with. Just close that up there. So, excuse me. I'm going to select these, that one. Maybe move that along a bit. Maybe move that one a touch. Yeah. Select both of those and move them over. Oh yeah, you've got to try. I was trying to get it in the middle, wasn't I? That's what I have to do. Oh boy. So let's select these two and move them down. So you can see there's the circle there. If you go to wireframe mode, that's where the bulge starts. Oh, I've got it online. Oops. There we go. Go to annotate. Yeah, so the circle kind of the bulge starts here. And it comes out like that, right? And it goes in like that. So we want to try and make that start from around there. Just delete that. Go back to solid mode, X-ray. So we want these points to be, let's just press G and grab them and move them somewhere like that. Something like this. Yeah, that's not bad. I'm going to get a bit OCD and perfectionist here, but So I'm going to turn on vertex snapping, and I want these to be lined up. So I'm going to select the blue one and snap it to that one. Hold down the control key and snap to there. Select this one, move it left and right and snap it to that one. Up and down, snap it to that one. And that's pretty much it. Maybe snap this one to that one. So yeah, it's not in the middle though, because that should be here, right, in the middle. But it's not. So to do that even better, I'm going to fill this first again, and I'm going to just cut it in the middle like that. Press J to select two vertices and cut them in the middle, just to get a visual marker of what I'm doing. There's the point in the middle, so you can see we're not anywhere near the middle of that earpiece. Let's move it over, something like that. That's good enough. And now we can select these places. So delete those. There we have our hole there. Magic. Oh, things are heating up now. Okay, what's next? What did I do after that? Right, we've got some shrink wrapping to do, because when we get to this stage, we've got, that's the high one, sorry. Let's select the low one. There it is. So we've got the mirror modifier, we've got the sub D modifier, smooth modifier. I keep hitting the microphone, so sorry. Smooth modifier and shrink wrap. Just want to say, I know it is late, and I don't know where you guys are, but if it is late and you need to go, by all means do. Feel free to do whatever you like. And I mean, obviously it'd be great to have you keep on, but at some point I will call this session done for today, and I'll hopefully come back again tomorrow at the same time. Hopefully, if not earlier, I don't know. I will try to put out a message, and hopefully it will work this time on time. But yeah, if you need to go, please do, and I don't want to keep you, obviously. Anyway, smooth modifier and a shrink wrap. Let's do that. So with our object selected, let's turn on our sub D. Let's add a smooth modifier, which is under deform, smooth. Let's just have a look at our settings for that. On this one, I have X, Y, and Z, 0.5, done. Oh, it's not even on. There it is. Oh. I did use it, I promise you. I just can't remember what for. Anyway, it's there. Let's leave it off then for now. Just smooths things out. It kind of averages out. You can see there. If I turn that on, I mean, it is smoother. Well, kinda. Turn it off for now anyway. Let's add a shrink wrap modifier. Deform, shrink wrap. Because we want to make sure this conforms to the helmet reference again, right? It needs to be that shape. So this is what I meant earlier on, ages earlier on, where I said you may have to add the shrink wrap again, apply it, and then delete it again. So we're going to keep doing that. Our target is the high sphere. There we go. That works well. Fantastic. Just checking the chat there. If I missed anything, I do apologize. Right. So that's looking really nice. Lovely circle there. And in fact, I'm going to use 3 levels of subdivision for rendering. You can leave it at 2 for the viewport if you like. But 3 is where I really want to be. So yeah, you can see that's looking rather nice, if I do say so myself. No glitches. You can see there with our topology, we don't have any issues with pinching or anything like that. It should look absolutely fine. Nice and clean, nice and smooth. Which is exactly what you want. Back to studio. Not to the studio, back to studio. What did I do after that? So on this one, we've still got the shrink wrap and the smooth, still got all that good stuff there. Right, I think this one's all about, let's turn off. I seem to have applied 2 levels of subdivision. Strangely. Yeah, you can see there, if I turn it on and off, this is the base now. This is the original. and this one isn't. And there's good reason for that, because you can't really make a great circle with a square. You don't have enough topology. I mean, it does work. You can see I can do it there, but it's not perfectly round, right? You can see it's not perfectly round unless you make the edge, the length of this edge here. Let's turn the shrink wrap off. If this edge length was exactly the same as this one, that would be a perfect circle, but it isn't. And you can do that by going up to an overlay here under this option, select edge length. You can see there, this, I don't know if you can see that, this edge is 0.479 meters long. This one is 0.462. So these two are shorter than these ones. So if we select this one and that one and do scale, let's do along the normal, if that's correct. Yeah, we want the X axis, left and right there on the normal. We're going to scale that up so it's as long as 0.479. So we select that again. We're in normal transform mode. Press S, X. Yeah, X, and then just bring it out. Hold down Shift to get finer control. And now that is the same length, as you can see, as that one. But let's go back to global. We turn on sub D and then shrink wrap. What's going on? Oops. Sorry, that's smooth. Shrink wrap. That looks much nicer. But it's still not perfectly round. I think it's slightly off. It might be okay, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm getting too fussy now. But that probably looks okay. Again, there's a certain like workflow to this. You may have to do like a smooth and then a shrink wrap, or vice versa, like maybe like that and maybe smooth it out. But again, it doesn't quite work. It kind of pinches there. So I'm not happy to do that. So I don't think we need... I could have sworn this was useful to me at some point, but for some reason it's not quite giving me the result today that I expected. Anyway, that's looking pretty good. So let's copy that. And of course, the moment I do that and move it, it breaks because it's shrink wrapping to the high-res version over here, which is there. So which is why I can't really move it unless I select the high and low, duplicate both of those, and then move them over. Now, it hasn't worked because the low version is still using the original. No, it's not. Why is it not doing? Oh, it's because the lattice. Oh, there you go. I need the lattice as well. This is why I can't really copy those as much as I'd like. But yeah, I'm just gonna delete these. No need to have them. Just have that. Let's clean up unused data. Delete 49 data blocks. Huh. Crazy. Right, let's crack on, guys. Get rid of the, not get rid of, just hide the high poly version. There's a lovely looking helmet. I'm pleased with that. I'm just going to continue with that, to be honest. And then let's go back to this one. Now you can see I did apply. Well, actually, before we do that, we need to do this cut around here. I did add, you don't have to do this, but I added it because one, it helps me isolate the visor like viewing area, so I can get more control of the topology. And it also means you can make the trim part around the hole quite easily by duplicating that topology, right? It's quite easy once you do that. So let's do that. And in fact, we do need to have more topology because we need to start adding more detail to the helmet. So by subdividing it once more, like another level, and applying it, we can then just use more topology to create better detail later. Right? That doesn't make sense. I think it does. Let's do that. So with that object, I'm going to close down these for a moment and turn off the sub D. In fact, we've got one. Oh, I did copy it, didn't I? I can't move that over there. No. Yeah, let me just delete 3 because I don't need 3 anymore. Let's purge unused data. Right, great. Sorry about that. Right, so we've got that. So what we need to do is your subdivision modifier. We're going to turn this, let's just turn wireframe on. Obviously, if you don't have the add-on, wireframe is available here, like that. Now, I just want to do one level. Turn that on, like that. Just want one level. And then we're going to apply it. So hit apply. Now we've baked that subdivision into our model, right? Makes sense? I hope. And the reason I'm doing that is because we need more detail, more topology to work with to add the detail. Otherwise, we don't have anything to use, really. Now, it did break something. You can see there we've got these gaps. Probably another side, yeah, all the way down the back and in the front. And that's because even though we do have a mirror modifier and it's got clipping on, it didn't quite, the subdivision smoothed all that out and it didn't really work. So we just need to fix that. And that's really easy, of course. So let's turn off length, edge length. Go to vertex selection. You've got these vertices here. Let's turn off the shrink wrap for a moment. And first of all, let's do, yeah. So these vertices were here. They need to be here, right? So you can just select them and just move them like that. And because we have clipping on, that will stick in the middle, right? With clipping on. So we can select that and just move it and it'll snap in the middle. But it's now got this lip that goes up. So select that vertex again, press GG to slide it, hold down the Alt key, and it'll come out the other way. Like that. So something like that. Nice. Do the same on the bottom side there. So select that edge, vertex. Just shift it along like so. And then let's just do these as well quickly. We can bring that one into line because we have vertex selected there. If I hold down the control key to invoke snapping, it's going to snap it to there. And this one can go up. Snap it to that one. Yeah, that's looking a bit weird there because it's straight there, but kind of bulging there. That's because when I moved these across, I did it like this on this axis, when in fact I should have done it using GG, right, to move them in the same plane, 3D plane, not left and right of the world. So all I'm going to do is select those two and bring them forward. Let's go to the side view. In fact, the bottom one needs to be about there, and the top one needs to be, let's make sure we have X-ray on, move it about there. Something like that. Now you can still play around with these and flatten them out like that, tidy up some more. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good. Happy with that. Now you notice again, the helmet is not the same shape as the, our 3D model is not the same shape as our helmet. And that's because we don't have shrink wrap on. So we turn that on. Now you suddenly see our helmet is following the structure of the 3D, sorry, the high poly mesh we have as our shrink wrap target, which is amazing. And of course, if you wanted to modify this, all you need to do is modify the lattice. So if we pick these 3 points here and move them across, that will also influence the low poly version because that is shrink wrapped again to the high poly mesh. And undo that. So you can see this is a non-destructive way of doing it, which is really cool. Let's turn off our lattice again and the high detail version. And with that done, again, I'm going to repeat myself, but once you've done that, you shrink wrapped it, apply the shrink wrap because we need to make sure it fixes that shape. So we can apply that and then worry about doing everything else. So let's apply that. And now we have this shape. If we go to the side view, the bottom of our vertices are not straight anymore. So with all of those selected, I'm gonna hold down the Alt key to select all of the bottom verts like that. You can see there. Oh, we didn't do the back, did we? Oh gosh. Back we have seams all the way down there. Okay, let's fix that. Let's select all of the edges here like that. Press SX, S for scale on the X-axis, 0, enter. And that will just make them all down the middle, right? And if I go to the transform bit here and select global, that's the global orientation or values, not the local ones. You can see they're not quite sitting at 0 on the X-axis, which is left and right. And I want those to be at 0. So I'm going to enter 0 there, hold down Alt key, so it applies to every vertex, and that's it. It's a very minute change, but it made we should have anyway. I don't know if it did, but it hasn't quite done it here at the back though for some reason. Let's just move that like that. I don't know why it would do that, but it is what it is. So there we go. We've got our helmet shape, which is fitting. There's our front view. There's our side view. And in fact, I just noticed something on the, on the front view. You've got this here, and that's because we turn our subd on. We can add a subdivision modifier now. Sorry, let's add that back. So generate subd up to 2 levels and 3 for the, let's put it there, and 3 levels for render. That's great. And that's looking really nice. Really cool. Let's save our work and let's just double check and see what we did there. So the next stage is, I actually added this at this stage, not afterwards, but I can do it afterwards as well. That was my bad. I should have done it before. But again, you don't have to do this part, but I felt that it helped me when I did the trim of the helmet bike. So you could do that and just add that there manually. And to do that, you'd have to do Control R. And we don't want the loop cut to go all the way around here. So to stop that, you can select this edge and this one and do subdivide. That will add a vertex here and there, right? And that these become n-gons. And the reason you want n-gons there is because a loop cut cannot pass through an n-gon because it's not a quad. So if I do Control R now, it only goes that far. So I want to add it there. But before I commit to that, I'm going to select, let me undo that. I'm going to zoom in a bit more. Control R. And I'm going to, while I'm in this mode, while I'm moving it, I'm going to press E for even. You can see it conforms now to this bottom edge. If I press even again, it will conform. Well, it conforms to this one, but if I press F, it will flip it, and now it conforms to the upper edges. I don't want it to conform to these ones. I want it to conform to the bottom ones. So I want to press F to flip it. E is on, so I press E, and now it conforms to that. So I click about there. Now we have that. Just there. Now we're going to do the same on this side down here. So Control R. There's our loop cut. And again, we should have E already. You can see if I press E, it does that. If I press E, it conforms to this angle there, or to this edges there. So I'm just going to select about there. Is that right? I think it's right. You can see there even. There we go. And then flipped. Bring that. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. About there. Roughly the same as the one there, right? So now we just need to connect these up. So we can select that and that. Maybe press GG to slide it down to about there. Let's just connect these with J. And we'll tidy up this topology now. Because this is no, we've got a triangle there now. If I go to the other one, you can see that's what we should have, really. before and after sub-D. So we should have this, a nice clean line. We need to figure this out now, just tidy this up a little bit. So it's quite simple. We can just select these two and press M for merge at center, I think. Yeah, that's it. That's done. You don't need to do this part, but it does help, I think, later on. It helped me get the trim done. So that's pretty cool. For those of you still stuck with me, I know it's really late here. Well, for me anyway, it's the 1:20 in the morning. If you're still there, I think we have one viewer left. I'm not sure. If you are still here, thank you so much. I'm going to continue, and in a moment, I think I'll give it 5 more minutes and call it a day, before I upset my neighbors, I think. Right, so now we're at this stage. I think we've got to a really good point now. We can actually copy this now. So Shift D, make a nice backup. So let's just move the previous version over there. Right. So now we have this. After that, we start adding some detail. So I'm going to add this part here, like that. Maybe that part, then that's it. I'm going to call it a day today. And I'll continue this in another. Bob Jones, hi, thank you for still being with me. That's amazing. Bob Jones says, support loops are good. Yes, they are really important, I think. And I really like the support loops to be there, like, because they can really get you out of trouble. When you do sub-D and beveling and solidify, things like that, it really does help to isolate problem areas. If you've got support loops as a buffer zone, a safe zone, that's how I think of them. I think of them as making islands within your model that essentially become safe zones. Then you can only do that if you have support loops to isolate those, create boundaries, right, of influence. And that really helps. So that's what I try to do with this model as well, to help me along. So let's crack on. Let's work on this earpiece here. So what I'm going to do is go back to the side view. Let's reevaluate the size of this now, because I don't think this is right. Yeah, the hole is there. And in fact, we've got to be out there. So let's tab into edit mode. Go to edge selection by pressing 2 on the keyboard. Alt click this edge loop there. I'm just going to press S for scale. I want to make that as large as the bulge starts. It's around there, possibly. If you turn subdivision, you'll see the size of that circle properly. So that's about, let's go with that. That's good enough, right? So let's turn off sub-D again. Tab into edit mode, and all I'm going to do is here is press E to extrude. Right click, so leave it in place, which is not good. So very important, now you press S for scale and create a support loop. As you can see, we created, go to 3 on the keyboard. We've got these supporting faces now to act as a buffer for our ear bulges area of our helmet. So with that done, you may think this looks a bit, we can see we get some really weird sticking out stuff going on here. So again, this is where shrink wrap, you may have to shrink wrap it again before we move on. Because if I turn on sub-D, just go back to object mode, turn off the wireframe. Let me just close some of these because they get a bit long. Let's turn lights, render options, and that one off. Why not? You can see it's okay, but it's a little bit bulgy there, and it should be more rounded, like a consistent roundiness to this. Don't know if I've explained that very well, but so what I'm going to do again is add another shrink wrap modifier for now. Oops, not that one. This one over here, and do deform shrink wrap right at the bottom there. Select our high res as a target. You can see that immediately changed. You can see there that conforms now. If I turn our wireframe on, you can see we still have our boundary loops. And let's turn off optimal display. You can see what's going on. There's a little bit of pinch in there, but it's not, we can work that tension. That's another thing. I don't know, hopefully Bob, you find this as well, where if you have some tension in the model, that can create shading, visual artifacts and shading artifacts. So if you can relieve that tension somehow through creases and support loops, do it, right? It's gonna, again, it's gonna help your topology and the quality of your final render, I think, anyway. Your mileage may vary, but I like to do that if I can. Let me just turn off wireframe overlay, turn this back on for a moment. In fact, let's turn wireframe on because I want to see what this is looking like without the sub-D. And that's looking pretty good, but that's really bad there. Look at this. And that's why we're getting that pinching I mentioned a second ago here. You can see it's getting quite tight. So the sub-div is doing its job, but it's not perfect. So what I'm going to do is turn off sub-D. I'm going to apply the shrink wrap modifier again to get us to this stage now. That's where we are now. And what I'm going to do is move around some of these vertices. And we can just relieve the tension here. So tab into edit mode, select vertex mode. We've got this one here. Let's press GG to slide it. So GG and place it somewhere like that. And maybe move it up as well. Let's go to the side view. 3 on the numpad. So I press GG, hold down the Alt key and move it up somewhere like that. And this one as well is really tight. This really shallow angle here, really sharp. Again, it may not be an issue, but if I put 3, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It looks okay. But I think I'm going to just tidy that up a little bit more. So let's turn off our sub-D again, tab into edit mode, vertex selection, select the vertex and press GG, slide it along that one and then slide it along that edge. Like that. This is okay, I think. That looks okay. Maybe this one can go down a touch, GG, on this edge. And that's okay. I mean, it's not the end of the world there. Yeah, maybe this one, GG. Space that out a little bit more. I feel like this needs to go up this way a bit and then that way. Like that. Let's leave it there. Yeah, let's do that. I'm happy with that. Let's turn off the sub-D. That's looking really nice. So let's just double check, make sure that it actually fits our helmet. It does, pretty much. It's close enough anyway. We do have some not very straight at the bottom there. That's because we did our shrink wrap and applied it. So we can tab into edit mode. Go to wireframe mode, make sure you're in wireframe mode. Alt click this bottom edge. And then S for scale, Z, 0, enter. Back to the side view. And there we have our straight, flat edge at the bottom of the helmet. And that should still look good now. Let's just go into solid mode. Turn on our sub-D. Turn off wireframe. That's looking pretty good. Test it with the matte cap. And there you go. Not too bad. Not too bad. And yeah, I did say 5 minutes and now it's been 6 minutes. I'm terrible. But I will finish on a high. So let's open up our other file. This is this one. So now I'm just going to quickly do this and then do that. And we're pretty much done for this. We'll continue with everything else in the next session. So let's just quickly do that. We can see how that's going to go there. It's pretty straightforward. Let's turn off our sub-D again. Go back to Studio. Tab into edit mode. Edge select mode by 2 on the keyboard. Alt click that edge loop. I'm going to press E to extrude. And before I do anything, press S for scale. Just do that. Just scale it down a bit and then move them out in the X-axis. Like so. Now, how far you bring that depends on the reference material. So let's get a rough idea where we're going with this. And I can't see it because I haven't got wireframe on. Oh, that way. Yeah, I can see I'm well out. I need to be... It's also not straight as well, but we'll come to that in a minute. Should be around there, give or take. Maybe not. We'll see in a moment. But yeah, that's not straight at all. So what I'm going to do is select, with that selected, I'm going to press S, X, 0, enter, and flatten it. Now it's nice and straight. And we have that. Now this is not the best way of, not the best example, but I am going to pull it out. So you do get that bulge there. If we turn on sub D, we now have that. And that immediately gives me a bit of a dopamine hit. Bob, hi. Says the shrink wrap on higher poly mesh helps with shading as well. You've got a really good workflow. Thanks. Yeah, I just learn by watching others as well. I mean, if that's what you guys are doing, I don't know, but I'm sure you guys are way more experienced than I am. But I just learn by watching many videos as well. And if I pick up a technique that I like, I try to remember it or write it down, and then try to use it in my workflow, if that's the right way to do it. Yeah, my Blender learning journey, and I've never done a course or followed a tutorial. I need to turn the aircon up because it's freezing in here now. Why is it so cold? There we go. Yeah, I find that doing a tutorial, like following like step by step, I think it's nice to do what you want. Oh yeah, that's great to hear, Bob. Yeah, always learning. That's why I'm watching you. Thank you so much. Really means a lot to me. Really does. I'm actually doing something useful. I hope that other people can, help them do great things. I mean, why not? I mean, have some fun with it, man. I love it. So yeah, the more tips I can pick up, then I will of course share them with you. Put them into my workflow. Oh, sorry about the crunching noise. Right, let's finish off this earpiece and we'll call it a day. Seriously, I'm not joking now. So I'm gonna be needing a break anyway, and it's 1:30 a.m. in the morning. So the next part is pretty straightforward. We essentially want to create like a flat area there, and then a recess, and then a flat area in the recess. So again, I'm going to press E to extrude, S for scale, and just bring that in a touch, like that. And then I'm going to press F to fill, to create a nice N-gon there. And we're going to press E to extrude, and bring that in. Should have turned off the sub D modifier. Now we don't want to bring that in too far, because that wouldn't make sense, right? It needs to go only as far as the inner padding would allow, or the shell of the helmet would allow. So if I go to the front view, or Control 1, and turn on X-ray, that's way too deep, I think. So let's just go about there. So about halfway through the helmet, I think. Something like, let's leave it there. I don't know. Something like that. Let's turn off X-ray. Now that's all well and good, but if we turn on sub D, it's way too smooth. You get this you don't really get the definition that we see on the actual model itself of the helmet. So if I just load up the image again, actually it might not be too bad. It is kind of soft, like a ridge, soft ridge. This is quite soft as well, but it is bulging. It's not a straight linear interpolation between that area and this area. You can see that from there. You can see it's kind of bulging out. So we need to do that. Let's minimize that. So if we look at ours, it's kind of bulging, but not quite. So that's an easy fix. Let's move this one out. First of all, let's select these edges here. I'm going to hold down Alt and Shift Alt. Let's just see what happens if we do wireframe, turn wireframe overlay on, and watch what happens if I do item and then turn on the mean crease to 1. There you go. You see that? Now we've got a lot more control over the bound. I don't know if that's a good idea. Let me just have a look. If I come out of this, turn on wireframe. Yeah, that's exactly what I want, I think. So it's not a hard edge, but it blends, because we have this boundary loop here. This already blends with the sub D. It's rounded off nicely along there up to that point. And then from here it takes over and rounds off this bit. So it blends into each other, like down like that kind of thing. Shapes I'm making. Yeah. So we could take, what did I do on my other model? I probably put another edge loop in the middle. Yeah, I did. Look, you can see I'll have to, because otherwise I can't get the bulge that we need. So that one there is okay for now. Let's add another loop cut in the middle, and let's just scale that out. So if I get an angle just there, you can see, hopefully, go this way. It's kind of straight. But if I press S for scale, make it bigger, and then bring it out on the X a little bit, you see now we're getting that bulge. Like that. Kind of replicating that one there. I'm not really happy with this one here. It looks way too ugly. So let's just quickly fix that. Turn off the sub D, and let's just make some tighten up the topology a little bit here, because we still have an n-gon to think about there. So first of all, let's select this face in the middle and press I to inset it and give it a small inset. And with that done, I'm going to select that vertex and that one, press J, and then this one and this one, so press J, and now we have quads like that. The final thing I'm going to do here is go to edge select mode, select these edges, and go back to item, mean crease 1. Just as we did on these ones here, do the same on these ones. And if we just see what that looks like now, now we have that. So I think this edge loop is a little bit too close, and it's making it quite sharp. And I'm feeling like that's a lot softer than, in fact, that doesn't go. Yeah, this is more, this should be more of a gradual dip into this. So I've made this way too large, right, at the back. So let me turn off the sub D again. On face select mode, select these faces, and I want to select all of them as well. So I'm just press Control Plus on the numpad to grow the selection and scale them down. Go to the side view. I can see what that looks like. Press S for scale. Something like that. Maybe select these ones and then scale these in a little bit more as well. So press S for scale to get a smoother transition. You can see now we have more of a slope going into it. If I turn on the sub D, we get that nice, softer. I'm feeling like this isn't good up here. This is too aggressive. I'm feeling, let's slow that down a little bit. Maybe put that one out a touch, like that. Yeah. Oh, that's harsh there, isn't it? That's because of our, yeah, that's because of our mean crease. I think we have to take this out. I believe we've got to take this out. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, so that's probably where we need to be. I'm going to save that and just have a quick review of our work. Look for any glitches. Nothing at the back, at the top. Oops, sorry about that. Nothing on the sides, and that earpiece or area is looking pretty good. Happy with that. So we can copy that again. Shift D, right click, leave it there, and then copy the one, leave the one before over here. Now we've got that as well. Let's save our file. Yeah, I think we're looking good. Right, I'm gonna call it quits now, for real. Again, before I go, if you enjoy this video, please do give it a like and a thumbs up. It really helps me to, well, gives the finger to YouTube, doesn't it? Right? That's what they want. Yeah, it helps to share the videos with the broader community. So can only be a good thing, and it helps me grow as a channel as well, obviously. So yeah, Patreon, check it out. I will try to put a link in the description. If you want to support the channel, that's the best way to do it, and you get great bunch of freebies, including my add-on. Bob, thank you. Last man standing. I commend you, sir. I salute you. It says, nice, mate. Have a good one. Catch you next time. Yes. And yeah, I will also hopefully catch you next time, Bob. Right. I'm going to go. And let's see how to close a live stream, because I've never done this before. I'm such a noob. What do I do? Stop streaming. That's the button. Bye. See you next time. You stop and you will no longer be live.